Just get this over and done with.
Wow, there may be some spoiler thoughts there. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a GeekVerse review. This is the review for Marvel's The Eternals. I I I am the second credit spoiler, Travis Snell, and I'm joined by
I am the Shadow Warrior, Kirklin Patzer.
there you go. So ladies and gentlemen, yes, we are about to talk about Eternals, what has been, I would say, not very that much of an anticipated Marvel movie. The past 2 weeks has become an anticipated Marvel movie because the talk around it, and also right now, I think last time, what are you drinking there?
Clementina. Is that how you say that? San
Is that an
Pellegrino?
alcoholic beverage?
Nope. It's what is that? Sparkling
Oh,
drink.
sparkling water and stuff?
Italian
That's
sparkling
gross.
drinks.
Let's stick with regular water, folks.
It's
But
not water.
anyways,
Just a lot of sugar. It's not technically water.
I don't know, but so obviously, I think at the time of this recording, it's like 33. It's 53% Rotten Tomatoes. So obviously, it's a big milestone, right?
I see
25 movies.
51.
You see, it's 51 now. Whoa.
51 Rotten
Wow. So
Tomatoes.
obviously it was much talked about. So we are going to get in that. We're going to do our non-spoilers portion for people because I actually had a lot of our fans hit us up saying they're not seeing it. So you'll have the non-spoilers portion for people who want to just hear our opinions, and then we'll give you an ad break, we'll give you a little warning, spoiler break, everything like that. So as always, Twitter and Facebook, just search GeekVerse Podcast. You'll find us out and about and things like that. But most importantly, 2 days away. Kirkland, are you ready to stay up for 24 hours? Are you ready?
Hell
I'm not
yes.
ready. Are you? I'm not
I
ready at
mean,
all.
physically, not really for like just staying up that long. I'm trying to catch as many Z's as I can. But lately, we've been burning the midnight oil on the podcast as of late. So it's tough to get the recommended amount of Z's. But
Midnight
what's
oil
this? What's
meaning
this
like
exhale?
what?
What's this exhale you're doing?
Midnight oil like 10 p.m. has been like the latest
Okay,
one
we
we
do a
had.
cast, and then it's like, okay, guys, better be at this point in Guardians. So then I'm like, well, fuck, I guess I'm getting no sleep tonight. Gotta catch
I
up.
never ever. There is never. He cannot find a single screenshot of me saying you better be at this point. All I said is maybe
Oh,
you
you
should
said
play it some more before
maximize
the
my
review.
playing time. Maximize your playing time from now till then. Well, okay, sorry. I guess I'm getting no sleep.
All right, but yeah, so I am not ready. As somebody that was right away from the cast, falling asleep mid like editing of the cast, at last I was like, oh no, here we go. So, but the fans are gonna keep us up. We're gonna have some fun games. I'm gonna have some sugar drinks, maybe a Slurpee or something. But that's the biggest thing, is it's gonna be a fun time. It's always a fun time. We got, I think I count out like 5 events or whatnot, but the biggest thing is we're trying to raise $2,500, $2,500 towards the BC Children's Hospital. If we hit that goal, Taylor's going to shave his head bald. If we hit the bigger goal, the stretch goal, 3,000, Jessica will shave her head bald. That would be a big milestone. We got the best of 5 Call of Duty Vanguard match, which I'm sure Taylor's staying up and playing right now, but hopefully
Better
he's
not
not.
be.
He said the first time we're going to be playing that game is against you in a best of 5. That's going to be kicking off the stream. Then later on, we're going to just have a bunch of random games throughout the midday and the late hours and whatnot. After, we're going to be playing Mario Party Superstars in a free-for-all with you, myself, Taylor, and Saris. Then after that, there's a whole schedule. Either it's on the link down below or tomorrow they're all going to get tweeted out at 6 p.m. PST. We got the big Dukeroo, the big trivia battle. My team, the Wolves versus Clay's team. We just got a plethora of really good podcasters, really good people, and it's going to be a very exciting time. And yeah, that is just going to be a brawl for all. Like, I cannot wait to see all these personalities, all these like people put into one little Zoom call. It's going to be something. So you're going to want to watch that. And then the big one, me and Kirkland, sports title match tomorrow or today when you're listening to this, the poll is going to go live for what match you get to pick. If we go to a third one, you get to pick, okay, what are we playing? So the biggest thing is come watch, come donate. Even if it's just $1, please do that. It's tax deductible. And if you can't, we completely understand. Just come watch, spread the link, share link, because maybe there might be somebody that can donate and that the ability to, and it all goes towards a good cause. Like I said, BC Children's Hospital helps a lot of children, a lot of people in need. So do that. Yeah, check out everything down below, our audio links, our Facebook links, our video links. Subscribe, rate, review wherever you listen. Head over to Patreon, get the best listening to GeekVerse experience, ad-free, exclusive early episodes. You get to help us decide content, you get to guest on episodes, stuff like that. So really good time there. And the more you support us on Patreon, the more content we get to provide to you. Go listen to the town hall or go see our post about in the about section, everything that's happened about Patreon. And then Manscaped. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later because we got some more things to plug. And I got a new ad read, which I'm very excited about, the Thankful Time. So you'll get to hear about Manscaped and why you should be purchasing and how you could be saving money right now. So here we are. We're at Eternals. It is technically, so yes, we have Spider-Man No Way Home coming out, but technically this is the last pure MCU movie. There's no Sony meddling, no partnerships. This is Feige and company, 100 full Monty into it. Kirkland Patzer, what did you think of Eternals?
Right off the bat, I thought it was a terrible movie. I really, really did not like this.
Whoa,
Yes, I
terrible.
wanted to come in hot because I really don't know what you are thinking. I haven't messaged you
I
like
haven't
at all
shared it.
since
I
you've
haven't
seen
shared
it.
it either.
Yeah, and I don't know. I was going into this and I really wanted to like this because it's just okay. It's pretty iffy review wise. But I didn't look into like what people didn't like about it. I just wanted
Mhm.
to go into it as open minded as possible. But there it was one of those movies where there were so many moments where I like checked my watch and I was like, oh my, like this is actually brutal to get through at certain moments. And I'll specify what those are non-spoiler section, but honestly, I feel like this could have been an hour less than what it was. It was a very long movie. And it introduced a lot of grand ideas that were really, you know, out there. But I
Mhm.
thought the execution was just really poorly done. And I like even after the movie, I was just like, I feel like this was unneeded. Like it, I don't know. I don't want to get too into it, but initial thoughts, yeah, no, I didn't really like this movie. I think if in hindsight, I would have probably skipped this one, but I don't
Whoa.
know. I'm excited to dive into like why I feel this way and certain character moments and just certain ideas in the world in general, like spoil in the spoiler section, but spoiler free. Yeah, I just thought it was pretty messy. I thought there was a lot of like really bad cuts where it just felt like I was in a video game and I like held square and it skipped the dialogue and I was like, holy shit, like this just feels so janky. I haven't like looked on Twitter or anything, so I don't even know if I'm like the only person saying this. I don't think I am because I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes with a 51%, but the audience score is 86, so that kind of surprises me there.
Mhm.
But me and my crew that went with, we there was moments it was like cringy, so I was kind of laughing for that sense. A lot of the humor just did not stick. Like I don't think anyone in my theater laughed for like majority of the comedy. There was like maybe two moments where people laughed out loud, but for majority of it, it was quiet and it was like it was weird because I did not have an empty theater. Like it was pretty full, and there was some comedic moments where you can just tell they're going for it, and it just didn't land in my theater, and really not for me. And yeah, no, I'm not really happy with this one. I don't think I'll ever see it again. um, yeah, what are your thoughts, sir? Are you more positive than me?
Well, that was interesting because I gotta say that I love you just going wild like that because
Ah!
I got everybody.
You always get
So
me.
this one is a very mixed bag because there's many times in this film I was right along with you of like this is dead last. I'm not liking it. This is bad MCU. And there's other times where I don't know if I ever got to great, but there's times where I could see the greatness on screen. Like
Yeah.
it was in grasp. And it's so funny because there's been this conversation of like, first ever Raw and MCU movie and how DCU had to like deal with that for so many years. It does in a way, it feels weird, but it reminds me of BVS where it's like you can see the bones of like what could have been a really great film. But it just, in my opinion, it just doesn't all come together. And that's the same thing I feel Eternals like, okay, I see there's like little parts or little characters where I'm like, okay, this is working. And then it comes to a screeching Hulk, like you're on a roller coaster. It's like, oh no, the ride's broken. We got to go back and start it again. And you're like, okay. So you got to wait in line again. And you sit back in the roller coaster, like, oh, we're going. And it stops again. You're like, what the fuck's wrong with this roller coaster? Like, I really want to ride it. And I never had a moment. I never checked my phone for text, but I checked it for time about 3 times because I was like, at one point when I checked it, it was like 8:40 or it was 6:40, and my screening started at 6. So it's like, man, I got like a 2 hours to go. Fuck, this is gonna be brutal. And it is. There's times where it's a slog, and I think that's the best way I can say is you can see the greatness on screen, but I don't think it ever reaches that. I think it really, really suffers from like show don't tell, or tell, well, the reverse, the way around, like there's so many instances that I will bring up in spoilers where instead of letting the plot kind of flow or letting the story show us or even characters kind of adapt or evolve, it's just like, okay, how did this character get from point A to point B? Oh, here's a quick line of dialogue. Oh, this is what happened. Oh, okay. And it just kind of reminds me of the Bilbo Baggins the Bilbo Baggins quote of too much butter scraped over too little bread. And that's what this reminds me of, that either, like Kirkland said, it had to be shorter, or this should have been a fucking TV show. Because
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing too. They tried to cram like 8 hours of stuff into 2.5. And there is tons of time where people want to always joke about like, oh, you can't do a big team up without doing individual films. I don't necessarily need individual films, but I think every character gets like a small, no, there's more some than others, but there's other characters get like small little moments here and there, but that's about it. I don't feel we get to deep dive into anybody, unfortunately. And that's the way it's like, even when you have an ensemble, something like Guardians, where I feel like there was enough time with each of them, that first one, where I felt like a real connection to them. And I didn't really hear, there's stuff that I look at, okay, that could be kind of cool, but we'd never go too far with it. It's always just kind of at first base, some positives. I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I will say, like, if you really don't like the MCU, I feel like this has a different kind of vibe. So I guess that's good. Like, you have that going for it. I think Kamel is great, but I also am biased because I love Kamel and other stuff. But I think I'm with you. All the humor for me did not hit for the majority of this, except for the Kamel stuff, to be honest, and a few little jokes here that they already shown
Oh
in the
yeah.
trailer. I loved Kamel's Kingo. I really like that. I'll explain more in the spoilers, but him, I could actually take a Disney Plus show. I actually really like Angelina Jolie, even though I feel like it's a smaller role. I like her performance, and I like some of the things they do with her character. And I really like, oh, I always forget his name. The guy who plays Keurig or Jurig or whatever his name is. Oh man,
Keurig.
it's Keurig, not Keurig, but the
Keurig.
Jureg.
Go-
Well, I'll have to look it up. But it's
uh
like Barry Keelgran or something like that. I've seen him in a
oh,
few things. What were you gonna say?
were you saying Druig?
Yeah, Jureg. Yeah, there you go. I
Yeah,
already
so
forget these people's names.
Barry Keoghan or something like
Yeah,
that.
Barry, I've seen him. I can't remember. Like I first time I saw him, he did a really weird film with Colin Farrell. It's like Killing of a Sacred Deer. That's what it is. And he's like a really underrated actor. And again, lots of these people were in these roles that I really wanted to like, and I do like for the most part. And it does interest me. Like, okay, if I see these people in the MCU again, directed by other people or written by other people, how will it go? So I think there's potential there, but it never rises past that. And I think for me, the other thing is that I've said this for weeks leading up to it. It's kind of a twofer because I've said before, I'm not the biggest work of Chloe. I forgot because it's not Zhao. There was a way that someone shared on Twitter how to actually pronounce it. So I'm just going to call her Chloe because I don't want to mispronounce it. It was like Jaw. I think it was Chloe Jaw. But anyway, Chloe's work, I haven't been the biggest fan of it. That last movie, she did one Best Picture, and I did not think it deserved that. I think it's one of the most boring Best Picture ever. And it kind of fits with this. Like, this feels like if the director of Nomadland did a superhero movie, and it's that. But the good thing about Nomadland is it's about one character. There's other characters, but it's about one main character. So you get to spend all that slower time and learn about them. These, you just get like little appetizers, and to me, it's not enough for the most part. There's a few characters that stand out, but not enough for me to be like really jazzed. Like, okay, I'd like to see him again, but I'm not like, this movie ended, and I always, if they were to say, hey, we're not doing Eternals 2, I wouldn't be upset. I'd be like, okay, that's fine. Like, if they want to sprinkle these characters throughout the MCU, that would work for me, but I don't really need, even the stuff that I did like, I don't really need a second Eternals. I don't think this one was good enough to warrant it, and it's funny, I don't know where it ranks in the MCU, but it's definitely bottom 4. So I'm not liking the films so far that we've gone. For me, as Black Widow and then this, I'm very worried for the films, and Spider-Man, we'll see. I that's kind of nostalgia, so that's going to be kind of a tough one to judge, but I think there's some ways that it is maybe better than an Iron Man 2 or Thor Dark World. But the problem is in my list, like if it's a better, maybe it's not last, but if it's more rewatchable, I will for sure watch this one more time again because of Emily. But then after that, I don't really see me going back because Iron Man 2 has like Downey and it's great to watch Downey. Thor Dark World has like the Thor and Loki dynamic that's really fun. There's moments in there that I can say, hey, this movie's not that great, but I can pick the moments from it. The same way with BVS. I don't love that movie, but I can pick great moments. This there's a few in there, but they're not like as great as some of those other moments I would talk about. And it's disappointing as well. And also too, again, I'll preference this as well that I've said, this is the first time I ever listened to Geek First and you never heard myself talk about Eternals, the concepts that they're tackling with the very big world powers, godlike creatures or figures that's been around for generations. I'm not a fan of that in most superhero media, and this movie didn't make me more of a fan of it. As the movie went on, I just actually more thought, I wish this wasn't in the MCU. I wish they just said, hey, this
Yeah.
is a Marvel movie on its own. It's going to be its own little universe. Cool, because I think they do a couple of tropes that actually, again, hurt the MCU. And some of my complaints about the DCU early on, MCU starting to do that. And it's tough because like I felt like they were starting to get away from that in phase 3. And now it feels like a lot with phase 4 for me. They're back into like just certain things where it's like, oh, we're doing this again. All right. And yeah, so I can't say it's a disappointment because I had pretty low expectations going in, but it didn't go past the low expectations. It like met them to like went below them. So yeah, it's definitely somewhere in the bottom 4 for me. I can get why some people might like this film, but I don't know. It's not a strong outing by MCU, and I
I
do not need more Eternals. I really don't.
I think honestly it's a disappointment for the reason of like where we are in phase 4. I felt like this movie really didn't bring anything moving forward. Like I feel like you can completely take this movie out and like I'd be perfectly fine. Maybe that'll change down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Um but it seemed very weird having this in there, and because it was tackling these super grand ideas with these celestials and just these beings that are basically stronger than everyone else that we've like met in our
Yes.
timeline. There might be some outliers that could go toe to toe with some of them, but like
Hawkeye
honestly,
ain't making it past these guys,
no, exactly. And when you open up that can of worms, you just can't put it back in there. Like I feel like anytime if we're trying to do a more grounded Marvel movie going forward, I'll just have these type of beings like in the back of my mind, and it's just like this seems so irrelevant. And like
Yeah.
those movies that we've had in the earlier phases that were amazing and they felt like really dire in certain situations, whether it was not a world ending situation or maybe like I don't know, a terrorist attack or something. Like I feel like anytime I get one of those now, it's just like, okay, well, I've
Mhm.
seen what celestials can do and stuff like this. I don't know. And
No,
it
I
it
agree with you. I think
brings
it hurts
yeah,
some of the MCU going forward. I really do.
and it's so disappointing because if they just didn't do this one, like they could have just
Let's skip this one,
eased.
guys.
Yeah, like I don't know. I'll get into specific spoiler section,
Yeah,
but
I think we're gonna
I've
start
just
in
been
spoilers with this because that's some of my biggest complaints is definitely near
yeah.
the back half, which is funny because like I found myself liking the back half more. I had the bigger problems, but I found the movie gelling a bit better, and there's like a certain, I won't say twist, but reveal that I actually quite liked. It's like, okay, this is a fun wrinkle. So I was liking that stuff. The
I
first hour for me was like I didn't get popcorn tonight, but I was like, I'm gonna go get popcorn because I'm just so bored. Like I need to do something. And
yeah.
I talked myself out because I'm like, no, it's not a cheat day. Don't do that. And I didn't want to, I've never had this in an MCU film where I thought during a film I may leave. I always get my snacks if I'm getting them and go to the bathroom before. For the first time, I actually put my mask back on and I was getting my wallet, everything. I'm like, I'm gonna go out there and get fucking popcorn. I just need to get out of this theater. I'm like, no, don't do it. Like, watch this film. But I've never thought that way through an MCU movie. And I honestly, I probably thought away with Venom, but most comic movies I don't, because I'm like, well, I want to see and stay what happens. So when I kind of have that same feels like Venom, like, and here's the thing, like Black Widow, I didn't enjoy like everyone else, but I never had that feeling with Black Widow. I was never like, oh, I need to get out of this. Like, I just need to go do something. I need to get some popcorn, and yeah.
Yeah. The fact that it wasn't your cheat day is what prevented you from like skipping out of this movie to go get
Yes.
popcorn and not be like, oh no, this is a Marvel movie. You can't skip any moment
Hmm.
of this. Oh my gosh, dude. There was yeah. So to get a little positive, because I don't want to just rail on it on all the spoiler free section. I did like some of the characters. You shouted out the ones I wouldn't have shouted out. I thought Kano was Kano, I think that was his name.
Kingo,
Um,
Kingo.
Kingo. I thought there was some good comedy that hit for me, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a big fan of him as much as I thought I was, because like the humor just didn't really do it for me. I liked
How
his
did
little
you
buddy
feel
he
about?
had.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I
that
liked yeah.
that's the Disney Plus show I want is those
Yeah.
two, 100%. This felt like the PG
Absolutely.
version of Borat and his whatever the guy is, and they're making the documentary
Yeah.
too. Like, yeah, I really, really like those two together.
And there was one line that like actually generally made me laugh, and I was like, okay, that was a good one. But all the other comedy stuff, it was just like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm watching this right now. And it was like it made me just like laugh out loud in like cringeness. It's
Mm,
like, oh, this is just so bad. I gotta do something here because I feel uncomfortable. But so yeah, that was kind of rough. But I really, really, really like Cersei actually. I think
mhm.
she was like a good kind of leader of the Eternals. I think I just really like that actress. She was really good. Um, wasn't like the best written character, but I still thought she was good in that group.
Yeah, and see, for
And
me, like, I like the performance stuff, but I have not like, I'm not attached to her at all, like, at all, and
yeah,
I actually like Gemma Chan, but I have nothing out she's not one of the characters I wanna see going forward. It's interesting.
and like Angelina Jolie, I thought she was all right, but
Mhm.
she was just kind of there for a lot of scenes. I don't know. I'll get into specific spoiler section, but
Yeah.
the other ones kind of just fell through the cracks. Other than I guess Druig, like you mentioned, he was really interesting.
I love
And
Druid, yeah.
Icarus was. I thought he was like a good Superman type character to have in there. It was very. I don't know. I feel like so many other people could have done that exact same performance. So I don't know. I was a fan of this guy
Yeah.
enough in Game of Thrones. I haven't seen him in anything else. I don't think Richard Madden, but
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. I thought for how many Eternals there was just a little too many that just slipped through the cracks for me. That I felt like they should have had a bigger impression.
I think they definitely had too many characters in this. Like that
Yeah,
was, and it's tough because that's why I say like this feels more like a TV show route. And I feel like they give you just enough to know stuff about characters, but sometimes they just feel like caricatures. They just feel like
yeah,
here's the strong guy, and here's a little bit of what he's doing. And here's this guy, here's a little bit of what he's doing. Like they never like anytime they introduce something very interesting, we never deep dive in. And I have two big examples of that too. Of like, and here's the other thing. I should address this because people, this has been a meme for me for in the Twitter followers and GWA and stuff like that. The hashtag Eternals are cowards, right? Hashtag Eternals are cowards. They are 100%. Now they do go into that a little, but to me, it's just like they only again dip their toes in that topic. At first, there's a few scenes where they're starting to talk. I'm like, okay, awesome. They're gonna address this. And it's like, oh, they kind of do a little, and then they just move away from it. It's the same way that I always push it back against people. It's revisionist history when I praise Black Panther. I say like how they tackled race was stunning and really brave. And people are like, oh, they were always going to talk about race quite a bit in Black Panther. No one was ever fucking saying that before that movie come out. No one knew Killmonger was going to talk about slaves committing suicide or anything like that. And that's why I always appreciate that movie because Black Panther looked like slavery and prejudice and all the stuff in the face, and it used it for a plot, used it for a character, and it was out throughout the whole film and it felt like a whole theme. The whole Eternals like not interfering, it feels like it just kind of dips in and out, like it's like a ghost. Like it's in there for a little bit and then we ignore it. And that's what I was talking about. Well, Uragon Kirklin was there's tons of like, you know, it should be the other way around, but the whole classic cliche of like show don't tell. So much stuff is just told to us. It's just
hmm
exposition of just like and I hate to say this, but we talked about this a few weeks ago. How to me, there's tons of exposition in Dune, but that is a masterclass of how you do it. It's done in creative ways. It feels natural. It flows. sometimes just does not flow at all, and it just feels like a history lesson. Even from like minor spoilers, the opening of this film was just like, okay, like we're getting a bunch of here's the minor spoilers. It's a bunch of text dialogue that you're supposed to read and get all this, and it's just like, yeah, like all right, like I'm kind of going where we are, and this is what the deviants are and everything. It's like I guess we're doing our nice best Star Wars knockoff, but it's just there's a lot of exposition that to me does not feel natural. You know, it just feels like we're shoving too much again for a movie that's 2.5 hours, which is a long movie. Still feels like there was not enough time for this movie to like fully like grow into like a beautiful tree or something. You know.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I think, yeah, I don't know. Let's just get into spoilers if you have nothing else to say.
No, I got anything else I want to say spoilers. So yeah, we will take our first ad break and then we'll be right back. So if you've not seen the film, now's your time to tune out. If you don't care, then join along for the ride. So we will be right back. And we're back. So it's funny that the Eternals, they've been through quite a bit of adventures, right? They've gone through lots of journeys and they've got a lot of artifacts over the years. I wonder what they would feel if they saw the artifact that Manscaped's providing, because this episode is brought to you by Manscaped, and they want to let you know that they are thankful for the holiday season. The holiday season, I'm giving our friends at Manscaped, or giving friends at Manscaped, are giving us a code for 20% off and free shipping worldwide if you use GV Pod. Do I tell my extended family that I have the Performance Package 4.0 from the global leaders in below the waist grooming? Not to mention, it includes the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer to tame my bush and score brownie points with the in-laws.
What does that mean? Are you
Wait a second. Wait a second.
run that back? Can you say that one more time for us?
Not to mention, it includes the Lawnmower 4.0, which is great. Trimmer to tame your bush and score brownie points with the in-laws.
The
Um,
in-laws.
the in-laws. So
Okay.
so here's the thing. Manscaped, they've been great partners, and this is the November they gave us to say, here's some new ad reads, and we're thankful and we're actually happy to ad read them because luckily it's product we've tried out and we've talked about before. It works great. That 4.0 is sleek. I just used it the other day. It's fantastic. To continue, gift yourself Manscaped or the man in your life that needs it. Join 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with 20% off and free shipping code GVPod. That's GVPOD. But that is a bold claim to get brownie points with the in-laws. I can say that I've never shown off the pubis or taint area to my in-laws, but maybe now because Manscaped is such a good razor, I would do that because I'm pretty thankful for it. I've still had no nicks. It's like I said, I love I've talked about before the light, but I love just how smooth and quickly it goes. And the package, that is a good thing as far as for Christmas. I may have got somebody that because that is like you get the shaver, but you get the ball deodorant, you get the shirt, you get the big one that Taylor and Kirklin are big fans of because it's a world like opening experience. You think about Eternals, the weed whacker, just used it today, got some hairs growing on the ear, and no, I'm thankful for that. And you want to be getting these packages, and yeah, I guess they want you to go show them to your in-laws. So I don't know if I recommend that, but if you feel comfortable, we're not going to judge your family situation life, and maybe they're just gonna, maybe before your father-in-law buys Manscaped, he's gonna be like, you know what, I need to see, like, I gotta see a first-person example. And hey, if you're comfortable with pulling down your slacks and showing him what the 4.0 can do with that 400K light bulb and the 1-to-4 guard and the sleek trimming, everything like that, uh, that's the way to go. So it's yeah, show those in-laws, use the GV pod code. It'd make a great Christmas present. We already have people that have bought for Christmas presents. And again, this is something that's best thing does, because if you purchase this helps us, this helps the podcast, but also helps you and your boys or ladies out there. Get this for your guys, you know, like whether it is a Christmas present coming up, they need a replacement, or maybe you're looking for that way to tell them like, hey, I would love to show my in-laws your bush, but it's just a little too out there. It's a little too worldly. You could give your guy the 4.0, he could shave his bush, and then you'd feel confident in whatever you're doing with your in-laws. So Kirkland, you gonna be showing your in-laws the bush this season with the 4.0?
That's I don't know. Depends how much eggnog I guess I get in me. You
Yep.
know, could get crazy. I guess
New
it gives you the confidence that you could do anything there. You could
Yeah.
show you could show the outlaws, the in-laws, any laws.
In the background, you'll see on our social media there'll be a new ad going out tomorrow. It's a great one. Speak and look, this picture for the people that can't see the audio, it's literally Taylor pulling his pants down, showing us his boys. He's probably doing this to in-laws this Christmas because Manscaped is so good, that
That's
4.0,
probably
you
what he's
know?
doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the best thing. Manscaped, go get it. All the details are down below. They've been a great sponsor this month, and we thank using them. So now that we got that out of the way, yeah, we'll talk about. I'm gonna go the. I'm gonna go kind of what we were talking about with the MCU, right, as far as maybe hurting it overall. And this is the point I want to make because I did write my notes, but I don't want to forget about it, and I want to start here because I would have mentioned it in non-spoilers, but I didn't want to because I was saying like, okay, there's certain things I don't like in the MCU, or it's just just genres. Like there's certain people like Brent from Marvel Alliance. He's just said like, hey, I'm not a big horror guy, and that's fine. I love horror, but it's just like people have that all the time, like a certain genre, a certain director. It's just not their style. So for me, so far, Chloe's work is just not really driving with me. If people love it, great. Genres as far as the kind of, like I said, the superheroes with godlike figures has to be done correctly. I think something like Watchmen, where you have just Dr. Manhattan, that works, or people in DC or Marvel, that works. But when it's just so many characters, so many centuries, I think it has to be done very correctly. And to me, this was not done that well correctly. It's a little convoluted, a little messy. The third thing, oh, excuse me. The third thing that I am not a fan of, that I've talked about many times, because we talked about this when GeekVerse started in the era of 2016 when DCU, and this is what, and people are gonna be like, oh my god, he's shitting on the DCU again. I'm not meaning to do that. What I'm saying is one of the problems I had was, so you had Man of Steel, and then you had BVS, you had Suicide Squad and Justice League all back to back, right? All those finales, all those third act kind of conflicts, and with a world ending thing. I know someone might say in Man of Steel, the world engine's not a world ending thing. That was a world ending thing with Zod. So you have that. In BVS, you have Doomsday with the shooting nukes, can't stop. So he's going to destroy cities and cities and keep going. In Suicide Squad, you can either beam the sky, you get Enchantress, and then Justice League, obviously, Steppenwolf, the 2017 one, which is funny. I actually have some 2017 Justice League comparisons to this movie. Not that people don't get wrong. I like the Snyder Cut better, but just wait till I get to that. My point was, so we just recently, and this is something that was starting to happen in phase 2 a lot, where every movie there was like a world ending event or like a world ending villain. And it was just like, we don't need this. And the good thing with phase 3, they took this break for a while when you had something like Civil War, where it was not a world ending thing. It was Barrett Zemo trying to take them down. And then you had, I guess Ant-Man was still in phase 2, but still you had Spider-Man. That wasn't a world ending. You know, you had Thor Ragnarok. That was more about Thor. You had Black Panther, not world ending. There was a world crisis, but again, Killmonger was more about like, okay, he was going to shift power. He wasn't like, and I'm going to destroy the planet. Thanos started as, you know, okay, he has an idea of like halving the population, but then at the end of Endgame, he goes, okay, I'm going to destroy the world. But with the Avengers, that's when you should do your world ending thing. And this is the problem where we had a world ending thing with Avengers Endgame. And I, for one, was like, okay, they got to not do this for a while. In my opinion, they kind of still did it in Shang-Chi because I don't care if that fucking dragon got out. That was like a world ending thing. If they didn't contain that whatever soul sucker thing, that was it for them.
Oh yeah.
And then in this, it's like another situation. But to me, this is like with Shang-Chi, someone could look at me and argue, well, that's not a world ending thing. It's just a dragon. Okay, fine. This is literally, hey, a celestial is going to bust out of Earth and destroy the entire planet. And I just rolled my eyes because I was like, again, we talked about this before, where the best thing to do is take those stakes down. And it's funny because Black Widow is just a personal story. Loki, it got big stakes, but they felt like, I feel like there's things going forward. And even then, when we talked about stuff like the gods, I was really worried about the time travel element of Loki of like, oh, are all our smaller stories going to feel like they don't matter? But by the end of that season, it worked. It made it feel like, okay, they found a way to make this work. Some things happen in the TVA that, okay, it's not going to be a world ending thing where it's not going to just break, not continuity, but just like it's not going to get too big. This movie didn't do that. It talked about getting big and then it got that big. And this is a movie that now, so what we had Spider-Man, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and I'm not missing one, am I? Those are the 3 movies we've gotten, right? From Endgame is Spider-Man, Far From Home, and then Black Widow and Shang-Chi. So, like
Yeah.
I said, you could already to me argue Shang-Chi was a world ending event, but even if not, that's already just 3 movies removed from Endgame, and we're having an event that's to me just as big because this is not half the fucking population of Earth. I get it because in Thanos that was the galaxy, like the entire planet or world, right? So fair, but for just our Earth, all the characters that we love and live on, that we, us in real life live on, already 3 movies later, there's a cataclysmic event that could happen that no one knows, but like you said, feels like off to the side. And this to me is something that feels like it should have been saved for a next Avengers or a next big crossover or something, not just this one little venture. Because before I throw it over to you, I feel like you're going to echo some of the things. It's just now some of these characters just feel so strong. It's like, yeah, so when we put them on the Avengers and like they have to verse a Mysterio wouldn't even feel like a threat anymore. It just feels like, okay, fucking Icarus is just going to show up with his team of people and they're just going to bounce these people, and it just, I was not a fan of, one, like I said, how they did the things, but two, it was another world ending event. And to me, that's very lame because it's just, okay, if we keep getting this again and again in a world ending event, it will lose its steam and people will get tired of it. And I do worry about that with MCU now because I thought they wouldn't do that. But now to me in phase 4, they've already done that twice.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I feel like the moment that I was waiting to come in this movie was like, okay, how are they gonna somehow work this in to be believable with our regular MCU timeline? I feel like that was going to be the end point of this movie. I don't know, be like, oh, well, you thought this was like basically our Earth. Maybe it's something different. Like I was kind of waiting for something like that, or just an explanation why, a better explanation, maybe I should have said, of like where they were and why they're not doing anything.
Oh yeah, just we'll get to
But
that. Yeah.
like what you said with the world ending stuff, it just like the stakes are just, they're disappearing. And like if our heroes come and save the day, it's not as meaningful as it was like the first few times, like well, I guess Avengers one, like basically all the Avengers movies were world ending events, but I feel like Infinity War Endgame, that's where it felt like everything was at stake. But like
Yes.
this just went even wider scale, and I don't know. I wasn't that scared. Like just knowing that like all my buddies from Falcon Winter Soldier, like all these people that are in the world,
Yeah.
like
Could just
they
get
could have
blown
just,
up.
nope, they could have been gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Just done
all
like that.
all of like the emotional moments of all of our characters' deaths, like it would have just meant nothing because nobody would remember that because we gave
Yeah.
birth to a celestial.
They
So,
got snapped back, but then a few months later, boom, done. World
and
blew
that's
up,
the main thing that I think like this hurts, that because like this
Yes.
movie hurts all the previous stuff, because just in the like if they just, I don't know, didn't do the Unimind right at the end, like the whole MCU would have been just over.
Yeah, yeah. Well, at
Like
least
what?
Earth, the Silver Surfer's
Yeah,
probably out there
okay, you're right.
somewhere.
Yeah.
The
Oh
Guardians
yeah,
would have
he'll win.
survived. Guardians would still be kicking. Who
That's
else?
right.
We got Thor still,
We got
but
Carol.
we got Care. We got Care. Well, maybe we don't know. Sometimes she's back on Earth, right? We would have Nick Fury because he's in space. So we
That's
got a
right.
few. We would have the
That's
Revengers
fair.
again.
That's
I'm
fair.
trying to think of who else we'd have out there. Who else is like in space right now? Technically Cap, right? Because he's in a different multiverse, so he could come back.
Oh yeah.
The next
Yeah.
Avengers movie is just like the stragglers who survive. Like that's the only way.
It's like a
Because
what if series.
yeah, like I was not thinking this, but I was like, man, maybe they got the balls to actually blow up this Earth. And like you said, it's a different Earth, or it is like, oh man, like that's because when you start doing these stakes, and especially the last time we did the stakes was Thanos has the glove and the gauntlets and the stones, and he's gonna snap half the universe away. And guess what happened? And then Infinity War, he fucking did it. Now we got everybody back, but it was like we lost heroes along the way. We grew, we grown, whatever we want to say. Went on some adventures, had some laughs, had some cries. This just like obviously that was over 2 films. This is just like at the end of act 3, 15, 25 minutes the most. And it just feels like, oh yeah, good thing we avoided that, like, whew, that was close. And I know I'm making it seem a little less than it actually is, but like you had a good comparison. Like when in Endgame, that sounded like it felt like such a big event where this just felt like another one. It just felt like, oh, it's off the side. And just now it's just like, okay, so when we get to the next Avengers, how do we make that even bigger now? And I guess that'll be
Yeah.
like maybe it is the multiverses collapsing each other and universes. And and maybe we're at that point where maybe, and I guess I don't want to be at that point. I don't want to be the point where Earth being possibly blown up is just like tier B. I still think that should be tier A. And then S tier is when you break up the multiverse war or the Galactus and stuff like that. But it's just, And because my problem is the same thing. Like, okay, what do you do for the Eternal sequel? That's always what I felt about those DCU movies. Is like, okay, BVS, we just had a world-ending event. What do we do for Justice League? Okay, well, it's gonna be another world-ending event. It's like, oh, right, okay. Like, what was the point of the league then? Like, I know what the point is, but it's so funny though, like how the Snyder cut was like 4.5 hours. This to me felt like the 2017 Justice League of one. This is like, yeah, like this is a better movie because I think that movie is even like that's a real big trash fire. But it felt the same way as that of like, hey, there's certain people I kind of like or certain ideas I might like, but we never got enough of them. So it's not a great movie. And this reminds me of that a lot with all these characters where there's some people I do like, but I wish we needed more. And the world ending thing kind of reminds me of that and Steppenwolf. But again, with a Snyder cut, you had 4.5 hours. So there's times like, hey, you're going to get a half an hour cyborg segment here. And I do think maybe, unfortunately, maybe Kirkland would hate it even more because maybe it would just be more of what he didn't like. But I think you did need maybe another half an hour to like keep expanding on these world or characters, because I don't think they were expanded enough.
I got a counter for that. So
Okay.
after this movie was over, I was just in my head, I'm like, okay, well, this was just a terrible placement for this movie. I feel like this is just unneeded at this point in time in the MCU. But I was trying to think of, it's got good material in there. I did like the idea of the Celestials, maybe not like the execution of them. I thought like one of the coolest sequences was when Cersei's like talking to the main guy, I forget his name, the main Celestial. And it's just
It's
like all the
Icarus or
visuals
something.
of the different Celestials like popping up through planets. Visually, beautiful. Yeah, that idea, a little flawed, but I still think it's pretty cool idea.
Mhm.
So I do want Eternals, at least in the MCU. I just think that with how much they tried to throw into this movie, I think this should have been just an origin movie. Like basically just like have all of them like going through the different eras cuz some of that stuff was cool. I just think like the
Mhm.
placement of it in the movie was just a little wonky. Um
Yeah, it
and
didn't flow the way I wanted. Like I
no.
because I we kind of got these inklings like, oh, it's gonna take place in the past and present, and it's like, oh, this could be cool, and this could have like a Watchmen sort of feel because Watchmen, like the comic book, and I think Zack Snyder's movie. It's funny, I keep talking about Zack Snyder, but like that movie does a really good job of going back and forth between the present and the past era, and I was waiting for that, and it never fully clicked, like I was just like it was me. I don't know if it was the placing or if sometimes they just felt them made them feel meaningless because there was this great moment where they have oh, I can't remember Brian Tyler Henry's character. He's the creator, right? Like do you remember his character's name? We got to pull up IMDb because we're not going to get these, but
Oh, yeah, I
either way,
just had it open one
yeah,
second.
Kirkle is
Keep
because
going.
I've said before, never read Eternals. Probably not going to after this. I don't really much of an interest.
Fastos.
So
Fastos.
fast stuff. So there's a moment where he is the creator and he's slowly giving Earth because what they set up, like they talk about in the trailer, they land there like almost like cavemen era to save them from the deviants. We'll get in the deviants, which I fucking hate. I hate them all. So
Yeah.
like and the deviants suck. They're like
Oh yeah.
Malekith level to me, in my opinion. And it's weird because they do this twist where it's almost like the deviants aren't the bad guys, but then in the third act, they're still just fighting the Eternals, because like the deviants are supposed to trying to survive, right? And it's just like they've adapted, they've evolved, but then they still fight our good guys who are also trying to make it like the deviants don't want the earth to get blown up because they'll die. The Eternals also don't want the earth to get blown up, but then they're still just fighting for the sake of fighting. It's like cool, like whatever. Like I said, we'll talk more about them. But anyway, so they had that moment where what was his name, the creator there?
Fastos.
Fasto. So they're at Hiroshima, right? And when the big bomb went off, everything like that. Did I say it wrong?
No, just I'm thinking
Okay.
the
Oh,
scene,
okay.
and I'm
No, I
thinking how
was I
bad it
was like,
was.
oh, I don't want to get that one wrong. That's fine. Like
No,
I don't want
you're
I don't
good.
want to.
You're
Yeah.
good.
So anyway, so they had this. What I thought is a great moment. Bombs went off. It's him and Ajax in the middle of just debris and death, and he's crying. And it's this great again where the movie sometimes like it's gonna start getting into this point. He's talking about like, man, like look what these people have done. They're savages. Like I just wanted to help them. I gave them these creations, my work to try and better their world. And look at what they've done with it. And it's like, okay. And they do because what they said before this flashback was, oh, Fastmas is like, he's done with humanity. He's given up on them. And it's like, okay. So they show this flashback and you go, oh, this is a great reason why. 100% bought in. We go to meet his family and his husband and his kid and everything like that. And then I start talking to him. And in one line, this character's like, well, I created a family and I found humanity again, and now and it's just like, what the fuck? Like they like in one line, all this set up to like, oh yeah, he's giving up humanity. No, I found it again through them. Oh, okay. And they do the same thing with Druid, where he took over all these people. He has this big speech again when they're talking about a great idea and a concept. He has the ability to control free will. So there's one point where people are fighting, he stops them and like, hey, you can't do that. They gotta have their conflicts. We'll get into the reasons why. But there's a big war going on, and he says, enough is enough. I've seen centuries of thousands of people dying, and men and women, and not just the men, but like he has this great speech, and this is like almost like Civil War, where it's like, okay, we're gonna get some more out of here. So he does this. He takes his people, he walks off, he goes in the ether, and they in the present day got to go get him. When they go get him, Cersei's like, why'd you stop? And he's like, well, I saw that the humans have flaws and that's what make them human. So I didn't take them all over. Again, in one line, we have a flashback and a big setup to, oh, he's going to be doing some crazy shit maybe off on the side. No, in one line, he's back to being Eternals. Like, that's why I don't take over people. They got to have their free will. Even though he's still doing it in the camp, it doesn't make much sense. But again, like they do this so much time where they set up something big and then in one line, it's back to status quo for this character. It's like, okay, I don't care anymore. I don't care because it's like I said, it's not show. It should be show, don't tell. And they're just telling us why did they change back to, why is he for humanity? Why did he not take over people? And it was not paced or done well, in my opinion, for multiple of these characters.
Yeah, and just adding on to the Fastos thing, like, yeah, okay, there's a cool moment. I was like, they're not worth saving. I give up on humanity. Next scene, like you see them with the family, and then I swear, like 5 minutes later, he's saying goodbye to his family. He's like, okay, I'm back to just being eternal again. Like, I
Yeah.
just felt like they didn't really. I don't know. There wasn't a lot of weight on their decisions, and not just the Eternals. Like we have Jon Snow, Kit Harington's character, in the beginning when he's like talking
Oh,
to
fuck.
Cersei, and Cersei's like telling him about the Eternals, and he does the line from the trailer. It's like,
Why didn't you stop
or are you
Thanos?
guys? Yeah, why are you guys with Thanos? And I just felt like he just didn't care at all that she was an Eternal, or like she's been alive for like 7,000 years. Like, okay, are we still getting lucky tonight? Like we doing with this? Like it just seemed so unbelievable, like their reactions to it. And so like Kit Harington would be in there, as well as just what we just broke down with Fastos and just his lack of faith in humanity. And the next thing you know, he's doing it again. I also got to say, I really didn't like the fact that they were just like the reason why we've discovered the plow or like the steam engines, like that, like all of that stuff. I'm like, okay, so basically like humans on their own are just pointless because we've just had these Eternals just pushing us in these directions going
Yes.
forward. I really don't like that concept at all. And now that's just stuck with me. The entire MCU now is just inked by the Eternals pushing us in this direction with Fastos, like specifically Fastos, like making all these things. I got to imagine he made us the steam engine eventually, just all of this stuff. I don't know. And I feel like because I just didn't really care for those characters, it just makes it that much worse because now it's like, well, everything that humanity made is because of this guy and this group of Eternals that I just fucking love their movie. Ugh,
I'm just gonna headcanon it that like he just helped out one spot and the rest of the people
just
like
the
figured it out
plow.
on their own. Yeah, yeah, that's it, just the plow, and he just figured out one like. But yeah, like, it is that same thing of just like he create all these bombs and stuff like that. And again, that's tough. When I always say that's why I hate prequels because it can hurt you. But this is like this is not a prequel to a character; it's like a prequel to the MCU. And I was worried about that when they talked like, oh, and we're gonna go thousands of years. And yeah, it's just that's just stuff I don't like. I am with you, and that's a personal taste. If someone says, "Hey, I'm into that," oh, that's awesome. But I'm the same as you. Of like, I don't like this idea. Like, oh, almost everything that they're trying to propose, I'm just gonna headcanon it out of my head because I don't want it. But everything that we got from the MCU is these fucking people landing here with their cheap Party City looking suits. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. The suits sometimes looks fine, but sometimes they were just like fabric and they did not look good. I was not a
they
fan of
didn't
the
look that
suits
good.
once we started going. It just felt cheap and it felt like all like you could get like a Halloween costume and it's gonna look pretty similar to what it looks like in the movie. Just put some shining paint on it and stuff.
It's
And
like Kingo's version of Icarus's that he had for his
yeah,
movie he was making, Shadow Warrior.
100%. Yeah, I'd rather wear Kingo's version than
I gotta
actual
say,
Icarus's.
so I feel like my favorite moment with the suit was Cersei's like near the end when she still had like the power of like the
Yes.
Unimind. It looked pretty cool. Like it was glowing with like some gold trim. That was pretty cool. But no, I'm with you. I feel like the suits. It was just too much. Like, oh, that's the superhero. right there. Like that's the super. Like you can just tell because they're wearing these super suits that are just standing out in the crowd when they're chilling with the Mesopotamian people or the fucking people in Babylon, like whatever it was. It just I don't know. They really stood out like a sore thumb. And just getting back to my how I thought like this should have just been an origin movie of like
Mhm.
because then you could have fleshed out more moments with Fastos, like really trying to put his faith in humanity. And
Yeah,
then
we
at
get a
the end, it's just
couple.
like he's totally torn. And then at the end of the movie, you could have them like divided, like not so much like, oh, I'm Icarus and I killed Ajax and like all of these things. Like you could have had the movie end with like, I don't know, Ajax's death. And it's just like a
Yeah.
mystery. And then maybe in the next movie, it's revealed that Icarus was it. Cause then you could really build up and like that character. Then when you find out that there's just more like, cause God, I'm getting all over the place here, but like
Well, you're
when
like
that
the movie
switch
though.
happened, I am like the movie. When that switch happened and Icarus is like, I think it's Kingo says like the same thing that he said to
I'm with
Ajax,
you to
like
the end.
I'm
I'm
with
with
you
you
to
to the
the
end of the
end, and he's
line.
like, you don't know me, and he just like goes around the corner. It's like, oh, okay, I haven't seen this side the entire movie, and then it just literally shows the flashback of him like killing Ajax, and it's like, oh, I guess that's the bad guy there. Like it was just
Yeah.
such an immediate turn for the character, and I don't know. I feel like if you were able to just focus like Eternals fighting the Deviants over different periods of time, and like that's the main movie. I think you just a better reveal down the line when it's like, holy shit, Icarus is kind of iffy. Holy shit,
Mhm.
like the main Celestial, like their plan is actually pretty dark for the citizens of Earth, right? Like the Terrans. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I just think that bundling all these things together, let alone like the Ultron deviant that I thought he was going to be like the main villain. And God, one of the most
Yeah.
disappointing deaths I've ever
S-
seen of a character.
Such a waste. And Family
Such a
Clay,
waste.
yeah, Family Clay, I do see in the chat, but I'll address those when we go. We got an order I kind of going in. But yeah, that was I did not like because here's the problem with your pitch. I agree with you because you could have the sequel of them going and recruiting everybody, stuff like that. But the problem is with your pitch is that means the deviants have to be the entire villain of the movie, and I neither would like that at all because I did hated the
Well, then you
deviants
just don't
because
like the concept of Eternals because
I
isn't
don't,
that
I
their whole
don't. No,
point? They're
it's
just
right.
fighting the
Yeah,
deviants. Yeah, it doesn't make
and
any sense.
but that's the point of the movie or the job is like to sell me on that, right? Is to make it so I do love it. And there's been times that happens all the time, and I just felt like I did not like the look of the deviants. I know people have their jokes about the bad CGI and whatnot. I don't think it looks awful, but I don't think it looks great. It doesn't look fucking Dune level. That's what I'll say, and that's
Absolutely
where it's like
not. Yeah.
so like these things. I don't like the design of them. I don't like the color, and yeah, when we get like I said, I already talked about the end part where I had my problems with the deviants. Like they said they want to stay alive, but now they're fighting the Eternals who are trying to keep them alive. Okay, but when you got the like evolved one, that whole segment again, that was not needed. That's where it felt like in a finale of Game of Thrones when you have like multiple storylines that have been going for 10 episodes and they're all ending correctly. This was just like, oh yeah, so he killed the guy that's looking after Thena, and Thena's really mad, and she's gonna have one last go as a warrior, so she can get her armor on and go mess him up in a separate little subplot that really means nothing. It just it's just like a little moment for Thena, but like, what is it? Okay, she can still kick ass. Like, okay, fine. Like, you could easily done that with Icarus. Like, I absolutely love that moment with Icarus when he's like, "You don't want to fight me," and she's like, "I've always wanted to." It's like, fuck
Yeah.
yeah, that was a great line. That right there shows to me that shows no, she still has it. If she can go toe to toe with Icarus, obviously got the better hand of her, but we didn't need this like a fucking evolved deviant played by Bill Skarsgård, by the way, out of all people. Like, no, legit, it was Bill
Oh, I
Skarsgård that
saw it in
played
the
him. Yeah,
credits and I couldn't even think of who he was, but that makes sense though.
yeah, yeah, and it's just not that Bill Skarsgård is the biggest name, but that's the dude who plays Pennywise for people who don't know, and it's just like he's so much more of a talented actor than like at least Pennywise. He's like he has the makeup and he gets to emote. This is just like why would you even do this role? Like I feel bad a little bit, but I'm not sure somebody should have got him in the draft because he was
The
in Deadpool
superhero
2.
draft.
Yeah, he was in
Speak
Deadpool 2 and he was in this as well. So
Speaking of people that are in double points, I should have way back in the day told myself to draft Gemma Chan. Is that how you're saying her name?
yeah, Jim and Chan, yeah, you would have got
In
double
this,
points. Yep.
did you know that she was in Captain Marvel as well?
Yeah,
Look at
she's the blue
this.
alien. Yeah.
I had no
Oh yeah,
idea.
you didn't know that? Yeah.
No. Oh, I
Yeah.
was
It
going
was
through her IMDb and I'm like, What the hell? What's this Marvel movie? Completely forgot about her
Well,
in Captain Marvel.
let's take another second ad break because I think after this ad break we're just gonna keep ranting on and
Just keep
whatnot.
railing.
Yeah, we'll find a way and everything like that. So we'll be right back after this ad break. And we're back. So and I just want to talk about just quickly because you mentioned Fastmas or Fastmos or whatnot. Like that's the who fucking cares? I don't care.
Fastos.
I don't care about these characters for the most
No.
part. They could all die, but like you when you brought up a good point of like you could have seen more of him. The same thing. Like I feel like we meet him, like he's with the group, and then he's talking about he wants to build like the hot water thing, and then the next time we see him, it's like, oh yeah, that's when the bombs went off, and like obviously he's in some of the group shots too. But I mean, like when it's stuff about him, and that's the best thing. Again, like when it is a Guardians, or again when it's like Watchmen, you have like what Rorschach, Night Owl, Silk Spectre, and Manhattan, and then maybe some other characters. But you got like 4 or 5. Where there's like 7 or 8 characters, so you're never gonna get that time. That's why it should have just been a fucking TV show. But again, the budget, so they probably couldn't do that. But like, you're never gonna get the time to fully flesh these characters. So again, like you're pointing out with Phasmos, I 100% agree that it feels everything feels so rushed, and it's like quick, quick, quick. We got to get to like they should have lost 1 or 2 characters. Like I actually really it's tough because there's certain things I like about each character, but I don't really love them. So I like Jurig's and what was the speedster's name who was deaf? I can't remember. Get that
Um.
IMDb.
Yes, her name was Makari.
So, and here's a good thing, and I'll say this again for the cast. We talked about this in trailers before, but like diversity in the cast, great. We got different ethnicities and something like I think it's like the first actually like being played by a deaf actor superhero. That's great. I'm all for that. So I'm not saying cut that out because of that reason, but it's tough because so I like that for the diversity, and I actually liked like the little flirtation her and Druig had, but she like I don't know if you need her, like I don't know if you really need her. And this is
So
and the same thing for Sprite, where I like the Peter Pan, Wendy, Tinkerbell comparisons. I really enjoy that, but because we don't spend too much time with it, it's just kind of there. So all these characters have like this line of like, I like a few things, but I could cut them, and it's tough because I don't know which ones you would do, but definitely I would cut
yeah,
some for sure.
yeah. Just touching upon Makari's character, I really liked her as well, and it is great getting representation from like a person that's actually deaf.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what tripped me up was like, okay, she's doing American Sign Language, and she's supposedly like
Yes.
from like 7,000 years ago, and like again, I'm able to kind of brush that off because I have other issues with the movie. But when that initially happened, I'm like, okay,
How's
maybe
this
they'll write it
working?
off as like she's the original like
Yeah, maybe
teacher
that.
of what
Yeah,
that
she
is.
taught us sign language. Probably
Yeah.
they teach us everything.
Yeah, Fastos giving us all the technology. She's giving us all the American Sign Language stuff like that. So again, it was just something that popped in my head, but I was able to just headcanon that off. But no, I liked her character, and you said you thought there was around 7 or something. There was 10 Eternals total.
Fuck.
Yeah, so just goes to show how many there are that it's so easy to just forget about them, right? And I totally agree with you. I think they should have done something like The Watchmen, where you have like a smaller cast, but you're able to just spend more time with them, and that way when their deaths come, it means more. Because like when
Yeah.
Gilgamesh, when he died, okay, yeah, I liked his romance that he had with Thana and that stuff, and how he was the one kind of like keeping her sane. But when he
Hmm.
died, I don't know, it didn't really affect me that much.
You
I don't
forgot
even think
about him.
I don't even think I got a flashback of him. Like honestly, I think they just completely wasted those on Cersei, Icarus, someone else maybe. I don't know. Like we didn't even get a
One of the
flashback really of
Eternals.
Thana, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But Clay says the Speedster's theme was the best in the movie. I don't even remember like any of the score, honestly.
Me either. Yeah.
I remember there was one point when oh god. When Icarus was flying too close to the sun at the end there, I like literally laughed out loud in that moment. I thought it was so fucking random of him just like, I'm sorry. She turns around, I know. And he just literally just bolts right into the sun. And it's just like, oh, look at that, kids. He's doing the Icarus mythos of flying into the sun and burning up. I thought it was so fucking on the nose and so bad. Like that was one of those cringy moments. And I'm like, this is so stupid. Um
I was torn with this because hey, I'll give them one credit, as I've talked about many times. In the MCU, sex does not exist. People just like
okay.
state.
Those
And
like
I
stuck with me. I feel like they cut out where like they have like an extended edition where it's like just
oh
fucking
yeah, there
hardcore
was
porn.
there's a smash cut to full penetration. There's some cut, you know.
And there was a couple of those.
Yeah,
Fucking
yeah.
Cersei
So
almost had one with the weird deviant dude. That was weird. Bondage and everything.
yeah,
Oh,
I don't know how I feel about that one because like
it's terrible.
yeah, like it's just especially in this culture nowadays. Like I get he's still the bad guy, but when he like tied up her hands and like wrapped them around her back, I was like I just don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, like the MCU is like a very loveless place. I would probably say since Disney took over, because in the original Iron Man, you got a few like the sex scenes, but those are more fun and whatnot. This is actually like a central, like they're naked, they're both from the chest down, stuff like that. It caught me off guard because I knew they had in the rating said there was some sensuality, but the fact that they're just doing it on this dirt pile is like, okay, good for you, MCU. And I was torn because it's tough because I liked the twist with Icarus. I because at first with Icarus, I didn't know how Richard Madden was playing him because it was like he was very just like I'll say subtle to be nicely. I don't want to say boring, but he was just playing him like very close to the vest. It felt like he did have a secret, but that's I was like, if this guy doesn't have a fucking secret, why is Richard Madden playing like so docile, right? So obviously I knew like once he said like he left Cersei and there was no reason, like, okay, so something has to have happened. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because if not, like I said, what's he doing here? At first, when it was just revealed, like, oh, hey, he just knew about the world was ending, he's like, all right, like that's like good enough, I guess. Like I can make it work. It's not great. When he murdered Ajax, I was like, okay, for me, and I think it sounds like you're more negative on it or you didn't care for it. I actually really like the twist. I love the way Madden portrayed that. It's just like he's a soldier and she has that line of like, you're going down the wrong path. And he's like, this is the only path I know. And he's just
Yeah.
I like that he's cold, but he's not cold to the extent where he doesn't have emotions. With that, with the end of Cersei, when he's like going back and forth of if he's gonna like fucking laser her head off, and his eyes are literally like going back and forth, like about to fire up, and he doesn't, and he just starts crying. I loved all that stuff. And yeah, maybe flying to the sun was a bit too on the nose. I'll give you that. But I like that in the moment, he's going back and forth. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He helps Cersei. But once they freeze the Celestial and they've saved the world, he looks around still very conflicted, like, I don't know if that was the right thing to do, and that's what I like that he wasn't just when the turn happened, he wasn't just like ultra bad. And then when he turned back to being like helping our heroes, he was an ultra good. He was a very conflicted character. And I think that's somebody that I don't think he committed suicide by flying into the sun, but like, I think that's someone that you can I think he will get on the more heroic side, but I think there's lots to play with that. And Richard Madden, I think, is a good enough actor to do that. So I didn't shout him out in the non-spoilers because I didn't think he was like a massive stand-up, but I did like Icarus for the most part, and I really liked the turn. And when I thought, oh, he's gonna be just the main bad guy, this could work. But he even is still like he's there, but I even see another positive. I actually do like when he reveals the whole family and this whole dynamic of them finding out, and it's just like before the fighting does start, they like try to talk it out, and I really like that. Like everyone's just
Hmm.
crying and really upset and emotional. So there are some things with Icarus that I did end up really liking. It just like you said, yeah, there's some cheese to it, and maybe again it just moves too fast. They could have slowed down a little bit, but
Yeah, no, you brought up some good moments with him and Ajax and him just sticking to the goal of what the
yes,
Eternals basically are. So I did like that. And it's almost like a Ben Solo, like killing Han
100%,
Solo moment.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, like same like falling off the cliff and everything like that. So I did like that, and you shouted a good scene when he's looking at Cersei and the eyes are just like turning
Mhm.
on and off. That was good stuff. I think for me it was just like the twist. I like caught on to the twist in that hallway when he was like talking to geez, what's his
Kingo.
name? Kingo.
Mhm.
And it was just like, oh, okay, that's a really that's a very sus thing to say from this guy.
Yeah,
And then the next
imagine
scene
if
is
he
just
was just the good guy though, and he's just like, "You don't know me." Like,
yeah,
there's nothing
you
else
don't
to
know
it.
me. You don't know what I've done. And it's just like he
Yeah.
goes around the corner. And then the next scene is literally like him and Ajax, and then it's like revealing that he's bad. I just thought the placement of it wasn't that great. And like because you were mentioning like his acting in the beginning, it was like, okay, he seems kind of strange, and then like they keep looking at him as the leader, and then there's like a pause, and he's like, Ajax chose Cersei's the leader, choose her. I don't know, I think it could have just been revealed a little bit better. Like
That's
I'm all
fair.
for the twist, I just think the execution wasn't the best. And
Yeah. I'm not gonna
and
fight
be
you on that.
because of because of the way he was acting in the beginning, it was just like, I is he just a bad actor or something? Like I liked him in Game of
Well,
Thrones. I don't know what's going on.
yeah, I was worried for a bit because he was just so kind of
Yeah.
dull. Because
Yeah.
especially too, like, again, why we need more time when they're all just like they sound like they're so in love with him. He's the leader, and I get because he's the strongest. But I wish there was, if again, I sound like a broken record, so you can either tune out of this review if you don't want to hear. But if this was a show, you get a whole episode where Icarus is like the leader, and or just like how he's bonded with everybody, right? Because they all respect him so much. But not everybody gets those scenes. The reason why Kingo looks up to him and is so respects him is because we're told he looks up to him and respects him. You know, we don't see that much in these scenes.
Yeah.
Again, the show don't tell. Like, it's people telling us these things. The same thing is like, okay, we got a little bit up, and again, I actually really like the Sprite thing. I like the Kingo conversation when he's like, "Have you ever seen Peter Pan?" And one thing I will say, I was not a fan of how much IP was in this. There was multiple Star Wars things. I get that Chloe Zhao is a fan. I'm somebody that I don't care if people be like, it doesn't matter. For me, it does. I do not like the references of Batman and Superman. I don't like the world. I don't like that. I don't like them trying to make it too real worldy because it also ruins a chance of a crossover one day. But no, really, I just actually I don't. When they're like, "Oh, you're Superman," like you have the cape and everything. Not a fan. Don't like that. It's the same. Like even back in the day, like it was fine in 2000s, but when Aunt May to Toby was like, "You're not Superman," and he like gives that look, and it's just like not for me. But either
Looks at
way,
the camera.
yeah, yeah,
You catch
yeah.
that?
Big change. But like so they I like the conversation about this one as IP. Like, have you seen Wendy and Peter Pan? He explains the conversation as far as Icarus is Peter Pan and Cersei's Wendy and you're Tinkerbell who loves him so much, but you can't be with them. Now, when Icarus comes back and saves him or saves them in London, she's like Sprite's excited to see him, but in no sense of the matter do I get the sense that she has a crush on him or loves him. We do like she talks about him highly, and then the next time we talk about this topic is Kingo informing us, "Oh, you love Icarus." We need again give us a scene of flashback or a present day scene of just Sprite and Icarus together, like just really together, and to get that vibe where for him it's just his friend, but you can slowly start to pick up, oh, she's like in love with him, she's attracted to him. But no, we're told that by Kingo. And again, that's the problem. I like that idea because that is something. Imagine if you were fucking like stuck as a 13-year-old for 7,000 years. That would fuck with you. That would be awful. It's like the rogue thing
Hmm.
of like you have this great power, but you can't touch anybody. So again, there's like something to really play with there. But there's too much to tackle in this film that we don't get to spend time with it. So it is a cool element, but that's all it is, in my opinion. It's not a cool element. It
Yeah.
could be a great story, but it's
They
you know,
they briefly touch upon like that, and it's really brief when like they're in the club and then like she's transformed herself to be like an older lady and then the dude like
yes,
touches her because she's just like trying to get a flirt on, but it's not like, oh, it sucks being a kid for this long, I can never be intimate. Like they don't ever drop that line. And then like you mentioned, like when they see Icarus, she they just didn't foreshadow enough of
no.
like that love triangle, whatever it might
She was just
be.
happy
And
to see Icarus, her friend, not the lover
yeah,
that I thought,
and
so
that's the same thing I think about with like the Icarus reveal. Like, yeah, it's a big twist, but I think it could have been foreshadowed better, where it just the execution was better. But again, I guess I just didn't really like that reveal.
yeah, I
uh,
will say I was fucking super worried when they had Sprite and Icarus sitting there just watching the world go to shit. I was really worried for it because like we got
for how
that
many weird like sex type situations we've been in, I'm
yeah.
like, let's not go this route.
I was like, hey, goes clearly probably in real life, this actress must be 16 or 17 if they're gonna kiss. But I was like, don't do this. Don't like there's some things I want some things I like risks I want in comic movies. Like this is not one I want. But luckily, and here's the thing. Icarus looks at her. He says, "I'm happy you're here with me, Sprite." But it's never like he's never addressed it. It never comes up for him. It's never a thing. And I'm not saying it had to be this big deal, but still, like I don't know. It feels like a pretty important plot point that they never talk about. They never talk about these two characters together. And Cersei, the only way she's involved with it is just like Kingo's like, yeah, she's in love with him. Didn't you know? And Cersei's like, oh, and then they move on. They just like they completely bypass. They just go forward. And I did like Sprite's ending though of hey, like I have the power to make you a human. Do you want it? Like you're gonna die, but you can become a human. And she says yes. Like I like that. It's like okay, cool. And I hope in a sequel we could actually, I guess she would be around because I like that she went off with Kingo and they set up a good thing of like Kingo was getting tired of moving 5 years because everyone would question like, why isn't this kid aging? And that's fun. I loved like, sure, it's cheesy, but I love the explanation of how he's been keeping alive. It's like he's
Oh,
been
that's
a
so great.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's been a like a family lineage of actors all the way to his great great great
In
grandpa.
Bollywood, yeah.
Yeah, in Bollywood, it was so much fun. Like I really like that. So I did like again. That's the problem that I have with a lot of this movie. That there's things I like and dislike. But Sprite, I liked that ending for her of like, okay, she's gonna actually go live a life and have these emotions and feelings and just feel alive. Because she said like that was the worst part of being a child is she didn't know what she wanted. Then when she saw it, she couldn't have it. Not like the rest of them who could fall in love, make movies, have sex, have kids, have a family, do all these things. That option wasn't even available to her. She had no choice.
Yeah. No, I like the send off. I think I just didn't really vibe with the character that much. I mean, I never liked Tinkerbell in the original Peter Pan. I thought she was just
Wow.
really, really grouchy, and Sprite kind of fit that same territory. She
Mhm.
is 14 right now, so I'm glad they didn't go the route of them kissing or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's let's avoid that one. It's just because they were sitting beside each other and there
Oh,
was
it
like
was
this.
weird. No, I thought
Yeah,
about it.
okay,
I'm like,
good.
what
I
is
wasn't alone. I was like, what's happening here? Like,
um what was the
don't
other
do this.
ones we haven't touched upon? We talked about
Yeah.
Fastos,
I have nothing to say about
Druid.
the guy who was protecting Angelina Jolie. Like he was fine, but I feel like he was the one that got the least amount of time, and they saved him for some jokes and like he was
Mhm.
fine. That was about it. You know, he had some good one-liners with Angelina Jolie, and yeah.
Yeah. And then yeah, like I'm just looking at the character list. I feel like there's really not much to talk about the other ones. Like Cersei's like our protagonist pretty much leading the way. And
Mhm.
I think it's just because I'm a big fan of Gemma Chan. I've liked everything I've seen her in. So it was an easy follow, like following the story. Like with her. As much as I just thought it was really random just having like Kit Harington there, I still like their dynamic. I think I was chuckling because I just couldn't stop seeing Jon Snow in these moments, and especially when like we have like saying Cersei, and, like just I'm just thinking
Yes,
Game of Thrones too much. It was just a little weird. We got
especially when
Robert
they had the
Stark in there.
face off too. Like when Icarus meets Dane, and it's like this is fucking weird. Like this is a casting they should have thought about. You know, and I thought the same thing at the end of the movie. When he's like, "I love you, Cersei." I'm like, yeah, this is fucking weird. You know, like maybe this was a misstep. But I want to talk about Dane Whitman because so it's interesting. We've talked about this before. Like I think I filled you guys in like a long time ago when he was a cast, and he got you some
Hmm.
points in the superhero draft. So here's your proof right here.
Hell
But so
yes.
he's playing Day Women, who becomes the Black Knight. And I was very curious what they're going to do with this. Um, so it's funny because I didn't mind when you're talking about the beginning when he's talking to her about being eternal and stuff like that. And when he's like, "Hey, are you a witch or like Doctor Strange? Could you turn me in draft?" Stuff like that. The reason I like that is because the MCU has been going for 10 years our time, but it's like been Iron Man, which is when people started really finding out about superheroes, has been going for about 15 years plus. So I like that. Yeah, weird stuff happens, but it is kind of commonplace now of like, oh, there is wizards in the world, there is superheroes. So I kind of like that we are past the stage of him having to be like super shocked because that stuff does just happen
Mm.
nowadays in the
Yeah,
MCU, right? That's the
that's fair.
world they live in. It's just like you and me, like with at one point we used to podcast in person and now we podcast virtually and now it's just like common
Yeah,
sense to us
that's a
now.
good point.
So that's why I actually liked that. I think how we got to him becoming Black Knight was very mishandled in a few ways of just like I liked the hinting when she's like, this was your family crest, and there's like even a flashback to like what could be his family with the Black Knight stuff. But then at the end of the movie, for him just to be like, yeah, I got a secret. I haven't been telling you all this stuff. And it's literally just thrown in there. And I just feel like if you have no idea, if you don't listen to these podcasts, stuff like that, it feels random. And again, another thing I'm not liking that what phase 4 is doing with Sung-Chi, the same way where it ended of like Wong popping the portal and they walked in. It's like, oh, that's a weird way to end the movie. It goes right into the post-credit scene. They did that again where this movie, the actual ending, the last like 3 minutes, felt like that was a third post-credit scene as far as like the judge, because that's what he is. He pulls all the Eternals that are alive back and he says, like, I'm gonna use your current memories and I'm gonna judge. And if this place is bad, I'm gonna tear it down and stuff like that, which is like, okay, that's
Wonder
weird.
what's
Like
gonna happen.
well, and it's just like I thought the whole goal wasn't to judge these people, it was just like to destroy them and create a celestial, but that's fine, whatever. So, and then Gemma Chan never comes back, and the last shot is of Dane Whitman of the movie looking at the sky like all determined. Now, us who know, okay, he's going to become a character that is eventually on the Avengers, we know like, okay, he's a superhero. But again, it's weird to end the Eternals movie on Dane Whitman, who is barely in this movie. It feels like a very odd thing. It feels like they should have just done three. They should have just had this post credit scene morph with the second last one and just did a long post credit scene. Because to me, it felt, and we'll save the post credit scenes to the end there, but the ending felt odd, and the kind of introduction or introducing of him being Black Knight, I felt again was just stuffed in. I don't think it worked. You know, like I'm happy we're
No,
going that route, but I don't think it was well paced at all.
no, 100%. I agree with you. And something that I was just complaining about with this movie is the placement of it, like in just breaking the fourth wall. Like this is what I'm seeing in November. You know, like I'm seeing Spider-Man next. Like I was just waiting for when those moments were getting rough in the in the theater. I'm like, okay, at least I got a post credit scene that'll probably save the day. You know, it'll be something with some characters I'm expecting. And I know we'll talk about them later, but I just never got that. So then once it was over, it was just I kind of felt sick. Not
Okay.
quite, because I wasn't not
I
literally,
know.
you know, I wasn't that invested in this movie. Luckily I'm not not big into the Eternal. Who knows? Maybe if I was big into the Eternals, I would like this one more. But yeah, I really didn't like that. I think I was also expecting more of Kit Harington in this movie just from what I had seen in the trailer. Um, and yeah, no, I 100% agree with what you said though. It was just it was not tackled properly. And like I had a buddy that I was watching the movie with, and he doesn't know anything about Black Knight, and he was like
Oh
giggling
yeah.
with me at the end because when he's like, I got a family secret, he's like big into Game of Thrones, so he's like, I'm a Targaryen. And it's like it fits so
Yeah.
well, just like him
Yeah.
describing it. He's got his family lineage,
There's
talking to
something I haven't
Cersei.
told you.
Yeah, it's just so funny the parallels there. But
Well,
anyways,
we usually do it more near the end, but I want to talk about them because I'll cut them out later. But
okay,
I want
let's
to
do
talk
it.
about the end credit scenes because you talked about being disappointed. So we'll save the first one because I guarantee you I know why you'd be disappointed in that because I feel like I'm even disappointed in that. But so the second one, you have Dane Whitman. He opens up this box, has the sword. I'm very
Sword looked
curious.
great, I must
Yep,
say. It looked
sword
really
looked
cool.
great.
I'm
They
like,
had
this is a symbiote blade or something.
Yeah, they had references to like Excalibur and stuff like that throughout the movie. Apparently, he had a crush on Athena, so that's kind of cool. But either way, I'm very interested to see how they do this blade because if you look at the comics Black Knight, it's very much just a sword lightsaber. You know, it's a sword that lights up. So I feel like it's gonna be lit, but it's not gonna be in a lightsaber way. It looks like there might be like some reflection lights. I'm not sure. Like you said, it looked very symbiote wherever he'd move his hand, you know, stuff like that. There was it was like death is honor or something like that that says in the box, and
Yeah, I forget that line.
he's gonna go grab it, and then somebody says, Dane, are you? I think he says, Dane Whitman, are you sure you're ready for that? I want to ask
Ooh.
you, who is that?
My first thought was Nick Fury.
Mhm.
Am I wrong on that? You must
I
know.
think so.
Oh,
So
okay, you
I
think
don't think
so.
it's been
Fanboy Clay
confirmed.
was
Well,
shouting
he
out that
says
it's
there
been
has been
confirmation.
confirmation, or I don't know if he's asking. But anyways, I would know this motherfucker's voice from anywhere because I love this man, and it's my most anticipated Marvel movie, maybe behind Spider-Man. That, unless this could be the worst Travis told you so, but I heard that I'm like, that is our boy Mahershala Ali, and that was Blade.
Ooh,
So
okay.
here's the good thing and bad thing where I think they had a misstep. They should have, like we talked about with fan of Michael Keaton, they should have showed him because there's so many people that will not know that is Mahershala Ali, will not know it's Blade. What I think probably happened is this was probably an effect of COVID, and maybe they couldn't get Mahershala Ali there on set on the day. But even then, what the fuck? Put them in a green screen room. You turn the camera. They don't want to be like they've
There
done.
was enough
Look at
green screen in this movie. You could have
yeah.
just
So
done it with
I
him.
take that back. I think it's cool because I heard that, and it's fun because like I got some questions for you. But now this almost makes me think that the Black Knight may not be an Avengers type of character. He might be like a Midnight Suns type of character. And I kind of like this idea because we talked about this in the newscast recently. If Blade is almost like the Nick Fury, but for the like supernatural horror side of the MCU, because if he was in the end credit scene of this talking to Dane, and now there's rumors he might debut in Moon Knight, I imagine Moon Knight's not going to be a small role. What if in Moon Knight he is there recruiting people? And that's especially because Mahershala is already older. He's about to be 50. it would make sense if he plays a Blade that's been doing this for decades secretly, and luckily he's not going to ruin the fucking MCU because he's just taking out vampires. I can believe the vampires more than these Celestials and Eternals, stuff like
Absolutely.
that. But I do think so. Like, I got hyped, but I do think it was a mistake not showing me, because I think even yourself did know, and I think millions of people around the world will watch out and not know. Yes, they'll get on their phone and look, but I think you should have just copied Iron Man 1, where then you turn around, oh, it's Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury. Turns around, look, it's Mahershala Ali's Blade. So, what do you think about now knowing that it's Blade?
Gets me very excited because I really don't know anything about Black Knight. I think his helmet looks pretty Novacore, eh? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
intentional? Yeah.
I don't know if it
Um,
is actually, because
no,
he was
yeah.
created in the 90s. Like, well, he was created before that, but 90s was his big deal. And I think Novacore and stuff was around, but it's been more popular the past few decades. So
Well,
I don't know that, because I don't know the, like, I had read comics where, oh, he's on the Avengers, but I Cersei, Black Knight, the Eternals. That's where a lot of my knowledge is kind of.
yeah. Because it looks very Novacore like,
Mhm.
but it's interesting because Novacore is so like advanced technology when you think of their suits. My recent memories through Guardians of the Galaxy, and they look very not medieval times like what the Black Knight looks like. But nonetheless, I think it's a really cool idea of him, like, I don't know, possibly fighting these vampires or more grounded villains because
Yeah.
just seeing him in this movie, like whether he had the Black Knight ability or not. And again, I should little asterisk this. I don't know what the full extent of Black Knight's abilities are, but I can't imagine they'd be quite on the level of what the Eternals are, right? Like
He's
I
gonna be
feel like
running
it
up
would
with
have
a
been out of
sword.
his.
Give me
It
my
would have been the
girl back.
Hawkeye situation, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's exciting knowing that he's not just tied to Eternals. Like he could possibly be linked in. I mean, you mentioned he's a part of the Avengers squad.
He's
I
been
could
him and
totally see
Cersei were
him
part of the
in
Avengers
there
at
heading
one point.
forward. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I think
So
he
I'm
would
I'm
be the
excited.
power level. I think he would be above Hawkeye, because like the sword is usually like has very powerful, like almost like magic sort of stuff. I can't remember if he's magic or anything like that. I bet he is, just because that would
Got
make
armor.
sense with the sword. He got
Hawkeye
the
doesn't
armor and
have
stuff.
armor.
So I bet he's somewhere, like, he's not on the Thor level, but whether the tier would be below Thor or right below that, maybe somewhere in that sort of realm as far as just pure power and everything like
That's
that.
pretty
So
freaking powerful. Thor?
yeah, maybe I'm making it
I feel like
too big.
Thor's on the
Maybe,
higher end.
yeah, I'm trying to think like who's like, we'd have to make a tier system, but like
Drax? Is he stronger than Drax?
I feel like he's, yeah, I feel like he's
Drax the
strong and Dragon. Maybe
Destroyer.
he's on that level and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll have to break
Should
that
get a
down. But
do a good brawl.
oh yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, so we got that one. It looks like I said, I do think there was missed opportunity at Blade, because I think a lot of people are like, but I do like, because even the press, Kit Harington was got asked about Black Knight. He's like,
And
you never know. I'll have to see what happens. But I like that we're actively moving towards that conclusion.
just adding on to like the Mahershala Ali thing, like imagine just I feel like that would have like saved, maybe not
Yes.
saved the movie for me, but I would have been leaving the theater like excited if I like just got to see the first image of Blade like on the big screen and he's just like, do you really want to do that? Oh, I would have been just jazzed at the end of this, but
See,
instead I'm like, oh, it's Nick Fury. Okay.
and as somebody that knew it was Mahershala, I didn't get the super jazz because not seeing, but I was like, oh fuck yeah, like here we go. Family Clay says, in his personal opinion, he'd give Black Knight as Guardian level power, but not Thor power level. See, that's a good
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
What I would do for amendment in that, if you had like the Warriors 3 and then Thor, I'd put him like in the middle. I'd feel like he's like above those other like as Guardians and whatnot. But yeah, Thor level,
Yeah.
obviously, because that's like Captain Marvel level. That's a bit much. And then, well, to jump back in time, we had our first end credit scene. I cannot wait to. I want to ask your reaction first, because I want to know what the fuck was going through your mind when you saw Pip the Troll, a character that I know you know nothing about. He is like a little stooge, a little like almost ward to Star Fox, aka Arrows, Thanos' brother. And this is something that I had spoiled for me, because Variety are fucking assholes. They put in their review that Harry Styles was in this, and then it trended on Twitter that Harry Styles was in Eternals, and I had a feeling like, okay, he's probably like, once we're getting going, I saw the character, and I'm like, okay, that's gonna be the end credit scene. So it was a big surprise. But what did you think about the scene in general? Not even just the Harry Styles of all, but just like everything about it.
Yeah, so I mean naturally I'm just trying to think of all the characters that it could be like when he first pops through the portal. And immediately I'm like, man, that's bad CGI on that character. That looks pretty
Yeah,
damn
that
bad.
was
Oh,
rough.
it was I'm like just it looks really dated, which is really weird. I don't know.
They
Maybe
gotta
I'm just thinking.
stop. I was never one of these people that like really hammered the MCU with CGI, but it does legitimately feel like it's getting worse. And the Pip the Troll, like
Yeah,
if we're gonna
looked
get
really
him
bad.
as in like a whole movie or a side character, it's like fuck man, that's not good. Like I just because he's voiced by Patton Oswalt, that's not gonna save it for me. You know, like I make him look like Rocket good at least, you know, and the fact that he just looked like one of those studios that when you know they don't have the budget, but this is Disney, so we know they have the budget. But yeah, I'm with you. Did not look good at all.
It looked really bad. Yeah, so then he's introducing another character. I'm like, okay, this is the saving grace. They're gonna bring me someone that I know.
Yeah.
And then I see Harry Styles in the outfit, and I'm nothing against Harry Styles, really. I don't know, don't really know the guy too well. But I don't know. I felt like I was trying to tell myself that like this is not what I think it is, or like what he's telling me isn't true. Sounds like I'm probably wrong. Star Fox sounds like he actually is Thanos' brother.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. So
Prince on Titan.
I pretty much just had like this face when it was on, just like, okay, yeah, this is something. I don't know anything about this, and I'm gonna try and not get super pessimistic here, but I'm not hopeful moving forward.
Do you have
Can you
any
save
problem
the
with
day
Harry
and tell me what
Styles?
it is?
Well,
Sorry.
do you have any? Well, he is a bigger character. It's weird because it's kind of like what we talked about with Adam Warlock, where he's very tied to like Adam Warlock is very tied to the Infinity Stones, right? But those are kind of phased out. Where
Yeah.
like Star Fox or like whatever you want to call them and stuff like that. Like
My
that, I
first
think
thought went to like Thane or something. I'm like, oh, he's not purple. Okay.
no, that's his son. That's his son. Remember?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But like with Eros, like I've read him a little bit, but like lots of most of the stuff that I've read, his big conflicts are usually with Thanos. So again, it's another character that it's just like it feels like him and Adam Warlock are like out of time. Like they're not in the eras they're supposed to be. It's like they're supposed to be earlier. Clay says he says, "Oh, I didn't see Star Fox. I only saw Harry Styles." The good thing was I honestly didn't really learn about Harry Styles until he broke out as a single guy. Like I didn't follow what was it,
One
5 Seconds of
Direction.
Summer or One Direction. Fuck, I didn't follow that. So to me, I didn't. I don't know. It just didn't. It didn't bug me. And the thing is, like, I've seen him in Dunkirk, and there's I think another thing I've seen him in. I think he's a good actor. I like he's not fucking Lady Gaga level, but I think he's one of those guys that some people when they're singers and they try to act, okay, I just see the singer. With him, I do actually like I didn't see Harry Styles, which like of course I saw because okay, I saw him, but then I got right in the character. But and even then, like it was weird the way they set up like what he's talking about, like how there's other Eternals out there and they need our help. And it was like again, maybe it's probably just because you and I didn't like the movie as much. So for me, just being like, hey, there's more Eternals out there, we're gonna find them. For me, it's like, well, that's not a hype thing. Like, I don't want to go find more Eternals. Like, I'm fine with who we have, and let's not add to that roster. But yeah, it's like we talked about, not great. I was very worried when just Pip the Troll popped up. It's like, okay, arrows can't be that far away. And I was surprised because I did actually think in this or in this movie we would get a flashback of Thanos, but we did not. He was referred to quite a few times, but we did not just because he's part of that lineage. But now if we get a sequel and his brothers in there, I feel like you would have to do that. But yeah,
Yeah.
who would have thought the Thanos' brother was going to be Harry Styles, you know?
I think a big reason too why I kept trying to tell myself that this is not what I think it is because I've only seen Harry Styles act in Dunkirk, and that's like such a
Yeah.
minor role. So it's hard for me to just think of him being a semi big character moving forward that could like like last a few movies or some other um just content, whether it's a show or movies or something like that. So I was just like, I feel like it's a tough ask of this guy, but who knows? Maybe he's got some great acting chops, and I just haven't really felt them yet. Like I'm excited to learn more about the character. I think because I know that he's an Eternal, it's just I'm not that excited because I'm just not really sold on the Eternals
Yeah.
after this movie, which sucks because it was a nearly 3 hour movie just about the Eternals, and I am just not sold on them. So whenever we get more Eternals content down the line, I'm unfortunately not going to be excited for it unless it's tied to something like really good. I don't know, maybe if
Mhm.
Blade's just the head honcho. No, that
Yeah,
probably
he's
won't
taking
happen.
over
But
the Eternals. He just kills them all one swoop. But it's I'm very curious to see what the general audience thinks about this movie. Like as and not like
yeah,
obviously we talk about the audience score, but I mean like you get your first weekend, but then the second weekend that'll be the big sign because that's word of mouth, and there's nothing to compete with it next weekend. And I just don't see the GA that like loves that Marvel type of action and humor. I don't see them going banana sandwich over this movie and like recommending it, but I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see. Let's take an ad break and then we'll talk about anything else we got hanging, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back. I got a few other notes, but Kirkland, what do you got? Anything else you want to shout out right now that we haven't talked about?
Um, so yeah, we didn't really talk about like I guess their individual weapons and their kit that they were using. I did like
Mhm.
how they had their individual, like I just said, guns and stuff. I guess Kingo was the only one with a gun, but I really liked Gilgamesh's like power fist thing. That was so
Mhm.
sweet. There was honestly some really good action sequences in this, but I felt like they were so minimal that the reason why they stood out was because they were just like, oh, there's the one that I've been waiting for like an hour and a half to
Yeah.
do. And one of them being when he just like disabled Thena when she was just like popping off, going all like dementia mode.
Mhm.
And then it just like boom, and he just basically knocks the shit out of her.
Yeah.
The other one would be when Makari is just going ham on Icarus near the end because she thinks that he killed
That was good.
Druig. And then you just get like, I mean, we've seen it so many times, whether it's Flash from DC Comics, Flash from Incredibles, that's his name too. Oh, Dash, there you go, not
Dash,
Flash.
yeah.
Like we've seen that type of thing so many times with fast moving people, but it was just really cool seeing her bounce around and then just hit him into the wall. And it was another great epic moment, just like boom.
Mhm.
And I think I counted like those two moments as like the really good action sequences in the movie. There was one when Thana was going to like challenge the super deviant thing. I don't even think he had a name. Um, and she's like going into the cave, and then he's just like talking shit in the shadows and stuff like this. And then they go to clash swords, and then it just like cuts to another scene. I'm like, that could have been such a good action sequence, especially because it was like dark and you would have just seen her weapons glowing and then like the sparks of the attacks. I thought there were some missed opportunities with the action scenes.
Mhm.
Like I don't know. I think also I've seen what the MCU can do, like Infinity War, that's a long ass movie, but there was some stellar action sequences, some great
Yeah.
choreography. We just watched Sung Chi not too long ago. That is some of the best fighting choreography in the entire MCU, in my opinion. So I know they can do it. It sucks when I know those scenes are being replaced with like a really strange Cersei Icarus sex scene in the fucking desert for some reason.
Hey, I like that sex scene. Don't take it away. The MCU never gets sex scenes. Come on now.
It is so strange. I'm like, okay, we're doing this. This is happening because they're
They're
like
doing it
getting all
right.
romantic in the desert. They're like touching hands, getting close. And the next thing you know, they're just ass naked in the sand and just going at it. I swear to God, I heard a moan or something.
You got to do what you got to do. It doesn't matter how much sand's in that crevice.
Absolutely. So yeah, I started out talking about the action scenes, but like Kingo's weapons was really cool. Um, Druig's fighting style, I don't know how effective that would be if he has like no one to possess. He's just like quick or something. He can dodge
He was
people.
whipping that shotgun around a little bit. He was like
That's
running
true.
around.
Yeah, the
Yeah, so he
weapon
must have trained
usages was kind
something.
of
Yeah.
funny. It's like when Ajax fell into the like frozen water and she's getting chased by the deviants,
Like
falls.
she's
Oh, I
useless.
got my lucky shotgun right here. Just happens to be
Yeah.
right here next to me with 4 shots. Little eye rolling
Shotguns
moment.
shotguns powers are always like their main power and then shotgun. Like that's always what they got going on. We didn't actually even talk about
Part of the power.
Ajax at all. And that's
No.
why I feel like she like some I like someone enough, but she's just like bland and she's fine and she's there. And same thing where they said that she's so, with this guy, this higher power, the judge, she'll do everything he says. And then when her and Chris are talking about, it, she's like, yeah, well, for all the hate and the fighting,
I'm
there's
gonna
also
betray him.
love. There's also love and passion. And I love these people now. And same thing, just in dialogue. Okay. Last time we last saw her, which yeah, of course was centuries ago, but still just like she doesn't care about the humans in the sense of she's there for the mission, and now it's like, no, I don't want to do the mission anymore. So it's like, okay, give us that sentence, we're good to go. But yeah, she was very just there. She was just there.
Yeah, she was very there. And like Clay was mentioning, when you saw Star Fox, you saw Harry Styles. I just saw Selma Hayek. And like I
That's
like
fair.
her, in her old movies and stuff like this. It's just she's a big name to just have a character like that. I think you easily could have saved some budget of just getting someone like new that we just I don't know,
Yeah,
don't
but at
really
the
know.
same time, like you look at the cast, like main star Gemma Chan. You have a lot of them that aren't known. Like the only probably ones are Jolie, Madden, and her, right? So I think with Eternals, they wanted to make sure they had more
Yeah,
names on there
fair enough.
because it's Eternals and no one knows what the fuck that is. So
Yeah. So we had that.
We
in
did. We
so
did have that.
their powers, I guess that's the only ones I really want to touch upon. I did really like the effect of like that light ball like popping out of their throat and then going back in anytime they would like go to talk to them. I keep forgetting what his name is, like the main celestial. They had a name for it, Ashram or something like that.
Yeah. He was
Um,
also the judge, so I just call him the judge, you know.
Okay, there you go. The judge. I loved every moment that we went and talked to him. It just like the scale of him.
Yeah.
It looked so cool, man. That was like my favorite part from the trailer. I just love seeing shit like that. One of my favorite sequences, what I already mentioned, was when Cersei is just like learning about all the planets exploding, and then you're seeing the different types of celestials, like the different colors and stuff like that. The one that was
Mhm.
going to take out Earth was it was going to be yellow, and it just looked so cool. It coming like out of the Earth. Now, it's kind of weird thinking that like, well, that's Earth now. It's forever gonna have this Titan just sticking out of it. Like, unless they retcon it in some way, shape, or form, maybe Multiverse of Madness might change some
Yeah,
things.
yeah. The Eternals don't exist anymore.
Or Spider-Man.
They all
God,
perished. Yeah.
it's like part of me wants that, but also it's like I just fucking wasted 2.4 hours of my life, or sorry, 2 hours
Well,
and 40 minutes of my life.
and this is the thing where for me, it's tough because I've always enjoyed pretty much with everything with the MCU, right? And I think the biggest joke we've always had before is like Thor Dark World, and Taz always
Hmm.
make that joke like, oh, it always comes back to Dark World. Now, here's my hope that even with Endgame, they make Dark World in a way, kind of the way we talked about Spectre to No Time to Die. It's like, okay, this is a little better because of what you've done with it later on in the continuity, right? So that's all I can hope is that somehow this gets better from stuff down the line, whether it's characters or a sequel or something like that. Because I think this is the first thing in the MCU I really don't care about. And the fact that we're gonna have like what if episodes about this and like spin-off shows, I just go like fuck, like unless it's Kingo and the director, I really don't care. Like, and this is which is sad because there's levels of it. Like, of course, there's some stuff when they announce like, hey, this character's getting a show. I might not care, but because it's the MCU, I'm like somewhat interested in it. You know, like with Monica Rambeau, there's rumors she might get a show. And like I like her enough. I don't know if she needs a spin-off show, but it's like I would check it out. I'm still gonna watch the movie stuff, like I'll check it out, but like it'll be my lowest as far as excitement because I don't care, but that is the good thing and bad thing with the MCU because when you care and you like it, it's all connected. It's one big world. But if you don't like something, well, it's there. And Eternals, with how big they are and how many of them are alive and what they're doing, I feel like they're here for at least a few more appearances, maybe another sequel for sure, you know, depending how box office goes. But I think they'll at least be
Yeah.
sprinkled in the MCU, which is like, I guess we gotta live with now. You know, they're part of the family. It's like when if you were to like, it's my worry that when my daughters get older and they marry somebody that I absolutely hate, but it's like, oh, well, they're part of the family now. That's what Eternals is. You know, like I don't absolutely hate Eternals, but it's like, they're a little annoying, but I guess they're one of us now.
One of us.
Yeah.
The other line from Kingo that I just absolutely it like generally made me laugh was when they're in like Druig's weird little like fucking village that he's got going on, and then
Yeah, just
he's
doing
like
orgies
confronting
all the
him.
time.
It's like, I made movies. It's like, oh, did you direct any? Or like, I directed movies. Yeah, they're on the internet. He's like, how many
Yeah.
views? He's like, I'm not doing it for views. And it's like not even on his face. It's just like you hear it in the background. I genuinely laughed out loud in that moment. I thought it was
See, you're
hilarious.
showing out some Kingo stuff. Kingo was great, you know.
He
Come
was
on.
good. I think I just going into the movie, I thought I liked the actor more, and
Hmm.
then I'm watching, I'm like, oh, I really haven't seen this guy in much. And then it just
Oh, Kamel's
his
great.
yeah, certain comedy moments it
And
didn't really
that
hit me. But I
the
did like the back and forth with like the camera dude. That was
the
good.
camera dude, oh, I adore the camera dude, especially at the end when he says goodbye. It was like so heartfelt. Like that's why I was like, okay, that's the only project that if they say that's a spin-off Disney Plus, I'm like, I'm there. Like that's what I can't wait for. And that stuff for the documentary stuff, that's stuff they've taken from the comic books directly. It's like at
Oh,
one
okay,
point they're
that's
making
funny.
a documentary.
Well,
And I all that stuff played for me. They're like interviewing people, the asking questions. I loved everything about the documentary. How many cameras do you have? And yeah, the director, that was all. If I got to give anything an A plus in that
yeah.
movie, that stuff for me actually really worked.
Well, he made me think he was like a Johnny Cage type character, like they're in such peril, but he's just like still
Yeah.
recording and like being an actor. So that stuff was really fun. I think the big reason I completely forgot about him, where the fuck was he in the last fight? He's like, this isn't my fight. I'm just gonna fuck off. And then the fight happens, Cersei and the Eternal save the day, and then
Hmm.
she's dialoguing with him, and he's like, we all did what we thought
We
was
followed
best
our
for our
hearts. Yeah.
hearts. It's like, fuck off, Kingo. You were just literally going to Bollywood, and you're just ready to like not help anyone with your power. With great power comes great responsibility. Come on.
Yeah, but what I see, and I'll take the other approach to why I
Pathetic.
did like it, is his responsibility was to destroy that planet. He had his responsibility, and he like that's what I
But then
because
he
I
still
liked
like
it
ended off as a hero, and he's like, "Well, I guess I didn't win because I was supposed to destroy the planet, but
because
I'm
he's
just
not a
gonna
sore
benefit from
loser.
it."
He's not a sore loser. The way I took it is like he exactly said. I like how he laid out. I morally do not agree with what you guys are doing, but I cannot fight you. You know, it's the same thing as far as you and me. I'm sure everybody, especially with who you like, you know, your relationship with, and she meets people all the time. We know people that are like unvaccinated. We can look at them and be like, I morally disagree with you, and I think you are dumb for not doing this. Even if you're listening right now, yes, I think you are dumb. Unless you have a real, legitimately health reason, you should be doing this. So should we all get better? But I can't hate some of these people because they may have their reason. That is their body, their choice. So it's the same way with Kingo, where it's like, yeah, it's a cop out move, but if he believes, if he looks at, because his pitch is what Icarus is, right? If we destroy this planet, maybe billions more get created. And he goes, it's that type of, you know, one life for a billion. Would you do it? And he agrees with that. So I actually like that there wasn't he rushed back and he saved the day and he just in the last 10 minutes, because the problem is Icarus also had that arc, right, of changing his mind slightly. So if it would have been Icarus and then Kingo at the same time changing, it might have felt almost too samey. So I like as far as, hey, I didn't agree with you guys, but you pull it off, and I'm here to help you. I'm gonna look after Sprite. I'm gonna help you at any point. He would fight danger, and now that like the Earth is just there to live, I think he would save it now because this is what it is. Like it's a like now this is an actual Earth, and the judge has given it permission to live on its own. Where before, why is he gonna fight for something that's just gonna be destroyed? So I don't think it's like amazing written, but it worked for me actually.
Fair enough. I just didn't like him as a friend. Just just letting
Friends
them
off.
possibly go like kill each other. Like all of his friends are gonna just go murder
True.
himself, and I'm just gonna go feel good about finishing my Shadow Warrior 3 or whatever the hell he's working on.
Yeah, well, I feel like he didn't feel good till after he knew the world was done. You know, I'm sure he
Exactly, and
was
he's
really
just a
struggling about it.
coward.
But I love when he's just like, "Oh, and I just signed this whole trilogy, and all these people's jobs are depending on me, and everything like that." Really, really good stuff.
And then
I
we
like.
can I was gonna
Oh,
say
good.
conveniently his little camera guy is like, you have to go do this. And then what is um Jesus, what was his name? Photos. What does his partner say? Just go do this. Oh,
Oh yeah.
convenient. Like everyone's just pushing you to go. Like there's no like drama or like heavy weight in these decisions because it's
Even
just like
Dane.
that
Yeah.
that's how we pass along the story. It's like Jesus Christ. It's like I'm just smashing X to get through these dialogues to get onto
Oh
the
yeah.
next
Like I
level.
don't know
Like
if
there was
there's a
so many moments like that.
I don't know if there's a vert scene of Dane saying go do it, but it also felt like that too. He's like, okay, you gotta do what you gotta do, you know, which again, like I'm fine with, but like, yeah, somebody be like, man, you could die and I'm gonna be a single father now. Like, do we want this? And again, a big applaud because like they had because it was what was it? It was I think it was like first 6 or 7 weeks when I was still hosting Marvel Alliance. Hansi was in the chat and she sent in a question. She said, like, hey, is the MC movies ever gonna show like LGBTQT, like LGBTQ. I always screw it up. I need like a shorter one, but that community, are we ever going to get like representation in movies and not just Disney Plus because that's streaming? And I was like, I don't know. Like, talk about it. And I like that they have a son, their husband, and they also kiss. And I do applaud if you go look at the stories right now. There's a few places, but like Saudi Arabia is a big one where they're saying Marvel gave them the movie, and Saudi said, well, we need this stuff edited out to show it. And Marvel said, well, we're not going to do that. And you got to keep it in there. And I hope they stick to that with China. I hope they stick to that with everything else. And I hope other studios do it too. You should not have the like, fuck this blood money. And I get it. It's all about money and it's all about they want these movies to be super successful, but make them change with the times. It's time. And that's the thing where it's like, if you want this movie and you want a nice clear cut in the theaters, you got to play it. And if you don't, well, sorry, you're missing out. So I do applaud them. Like we talked about the diversity already. I do applaud them for doing that. And like, I liked all the family characters, like enough, I guess, like just enough. And that's putting it nicely, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I again getting back to my original pitch of just having this as an origin story. moment, I think you could have just put so much more weight on the fact that he's just starting a family with someone that probably doesn't know he's an eternal and like probably doesn't know he's gonna just live forever. So like there's gonna be some awkward moment. It's like, hey, I'm starting to get
Yes.
wrinkles and you look exactly the goddamn same that I've seen you. And we're just forced to just okay go along with it. It's just that's what's happening, like I'm happy for him as the character. He's found a life and he seems happy, he's living in the suburbs. um but it's just, have we asked ourselves what's going to happen at some point in time when he's going to have these conversations with his family about why he's not changing?
Yeah.
um and like those sort of things just stuck with me a bit, because they put a lot of emphasis on that with Sprite, right? On how she, I think it was, unless I'm thinking of another character that they were
Sprite is the biggest one they talk about because she just wants to
yeah.
grow up. Yeah.
And then like with Kingo, like they explain it in a comedic way. Like, well, my whole family has been at movie stars, and
Yeah.
so that worked well. I think I was just caught up on, because first of all, we had him just super torn on just hating humans. Like I can't ever trust them again. And then what's the next shot? Him with his family. And then what's the next shot after
Yeah.
that? Him abandoning his family, and his family's just okay, that's fine. Just a little too convenient, and speaking of along the lines of like convenience and eye rolliness, is like with Angelina Jolie's like mind wipe situation only happened like, when it was convenient for the story, and then later on when they were like fighting on the beach, no, she's reliable. We're not even going to talk about that. I think when she actually killed the deviant thing, it like kind of cured it in some weird shape or form.
That's what I'm hoping.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna put
because
that on
they
like
were
the
so.
needles were like in her, and then maybe it was like
Yeah.
sucking out the illness. Again, that's me kind of headcanon at that.
Because they were pretty fine with her just standing next to that kid when it was established she could just snap at any point and kill somebody. So I was
Yeah.
very much questioning, like, and I know they even do the joke because she uses sword, stabs the orange, and Brian Tyler Henry gets like, "Oh no, like you're not babysitting." But I was like, legitimately like, "Hey, shouldn't someone be around her?" But I took it that way too. That I think she's fixed now. And even though actually I did again, I would want more of it. But I liked the kind of parallels to a dementia where she just can't hold together, might snap in battle. So I did really like that for what we got of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then as you were just saying that, it reminded me of um like when she's talking to the kid in that like really late scene in the movie, she's like fucking like shoving her hand in the toaster. She's like, "Oh, sorry, I get confused sometimes." Very parallel with what a dementia patient would
Yeah,
have. But it's also like,
true.
well, isn't she kind of cured of that because of the deviant
Maybe
thing?
she's not.
Maybe they just lean into the, well, it's like, okay, she doesn't go psycho mode, but she's just still
Yeah.
kind of losing it because she's been around forever. Again, that's me kind of filling the cracks in there. When you have a 2 hour and 40-minute movie, I shouldn't have to fucking fill in the cracks like this. Give
No.
me that origin movie when we can just completely dive into these
Do you
characters'
want it now
origins.
though? Do you really want it now though?
Well, no, no, the cat's out of the bag. We're never gonna put that cat back in the bag. So
That's Eternals too. It's
now
nothing
they're on
forward. It's
thin
just
ice. Now they're
backward.
on like
Oh
thin
wow,
ice
it's
moving
nice.
forward with Eternals, specifically with Eternals. Like what I saw in Sung Chi in that end credit scene, it gets me excited moving forward. And then
Yep.
these movies that are coming out, it's got me still excited. But like I was mentioning earlier, if it's got that Eternals name, I'm not sold on it yet, and it's unfortunate because I
Yeah.
really wanted to like this movie. It's like a brand new
Mm.
concept of new characters that I've never seen before. It sounds messy, but hopefully they do it well. I have faith in MCU. That faith is waning, man.
Oh, 100%. For me, it is like not waning because I'm sure they're gonna knock it apart. Because at the end of the day, like look at us what we got this year. Falcon Winter Soldier was really good,
Once we
and then
see Blade
WandaVision
and
and
Moon
Loki.
Knight,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, and then WandaVision and Loki. So
that's
it's just
right.
one of those of like you can't always hit the home runs. I think this one just sucks because and it's maybe if it's not a strikeout, it's close to a strikeout, which MCU doesn't have. They usually at least get one base. For me, this is the closest to a strikeout they've ever had, so that does suck. But and you really liked Black Widow, so what, this might just be one
Yeah,
little bump in the road. We at one point did have Thor: Dark World, and then we recovered and we moved forward. So
that's
hopefully that's
true.
what happened.
I think a big reason why this one hurts me is because I didn't watch, like, I think Thor Dark World was before we started the podcast. That's when I really got into
Mm,
the Marvels, like the MCU stuff at least. So everything I've seen has just been on that level. And then it's like I get this and it's like I haven't been here before. Like what is this new territory?
yeah.
um but you can't knock it out of the park with every pitch. So
No. Two notes that I had. I did like at the end. Like she was, I don't really understand it with the Celestial when she was starting to turn into ice or something. That if she could fully do it alone, but I feel like the movie was trying to establish that she needed them all to fully do it, which
Well,
I did like. But she was still getting the job done. But I prefer the okay, she needs all of them because that could explain the future why she's not as powerful. Because like, oh, I don't have them to make a Unimind or whatever, right?
yeah, and that was another issue I had, which my buddy brought up, and I kind of wasn't thinking about it. Is they crafted these rings so that we could form the Unimind, and then it's working. You know, they're it seems like they're forming the Unimind, and then they actually like tied into the Celestial's Unimind to like give her ultimate power. But then we also get like Sprite and Icarus pop up. They never were given a ring, so like, how are they able to do this Unimind thing when it was completely attached to the wristband? I didn't think of it in the time, but then my buddy, when we were leaving, he told me about it. I'm like, yeah, that's 100% right. Like, it didn't make sense. That's why they crafted these rings. That's why they took out that like orb, was to form these rings that they could all put on. But
Yeah.
those people that fucked off, they never got them. Am I assuming that Kingo is just floating in his Bollywood set, in that moment, like giving his power too? I don't know. It wasn't shown. Can't be out of the realm of
100%.
possibility if it seems like you don't need a ring to get that. So
Yeah, and Family says, "How are the rings made in the present and then found in Winwu by the past?" I didn't take that they were the Sung Chi rings, in my opinion. That's not how I
no, I
took.
didn't take it that way either.
No, and I haven't seen that yet. So Clay, you could be right, and if you are, then that would make no fucking
Tip
sense.
my
But
hat to you.
yeah, but I hadn't seen anybody, or I did. That's not what I thought when I saw it. So, and the other thing I really, really like, I got a good laugh is so Thena gives a speech we've heard from the trailer when it's just like, oh, from the second we've got here, you've loved these humans to Cersei, and she's like, blah blah blah, and all about love and stuff. Even though it's like, well, why didn't you help them? But still, whatever. They don't want to dive deep in that, and it's just like an "I need you" speech, and then what is it, Fasimos or whatever that's his name, Fasimos,
Photos, right?
Photos, is it
We've
Photos?
said it
That
so
doesn't
many
sound
times.
right.
Fastos.
Fastos, there you go, it's in the middle. When he walks up, he's like, "Seriously, we need your help," and then Thena's like, "I already gave that speech." I really liked that one. That was a good
That's funny.
one-liner. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then I
absolutely.
guess we already talked about, but yeah, fuck the deviants. I did not like their look. I did not like much about them, and those are things I don't need to see again. You know how it's like on Stranger Things when you're on season 4, and you're like, I really don't need the Demogorgons again. That's because it was season 4. This is like after one movie, I'm like, I really don't need to see the deviants, maybe ever again, in my opinion. But I'm sure they're gonna be in a fucking what if episode. I can't wait for that. But yeah, that's all the notes I got.
Not a good like big bad villain. Like it
No.
wasn't the main villain that we found out through the movie, but even early on, I'm like, I hope they're not just fighting these CGI monsters that are just they're not the best looking villains we've seen. Like, even compared to like the Chitauri, that's how you
Yeah.
say their name, right? Like, they looked really menacing and creepy, and like their ships that they had and stuff like that. I feel like those are a lot more iconic, whereas this is like trying to do some sort of Chitauri villain with like an eternal
Mhm.
spin. And
Yeah, thank goodness we
yeah.
had Icarus at least for a little bit of the back half because he was more interesting of a villain at least than the deviants. So
Yeah, because of the relationship that he had with Cersei. I feel like
yeah,
that's like the main reason.
yeah.
Because what was his like backstory leading up to it? He's just this really boring, bland character that like fucking Scott Eastwood could play.
Scotty, yeah, he was in the running. He can play Pip the Troll.
um,
Go ahead. Yeah. Anything else to shout out? Last points. It's all you, man.
uh, I don't think so. I think I've
No.
been railing on this movie pretty length amount of time, pretty long.
So I'll give my rating first because who knows what
You
Kirkland's
do
gonna
it.
give it. I've been very conflicted about what to do with this. I think there's enough that I like that I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I personally have not failed the MCU movie. There's a few things there, and I still don't know if it's a bad movie per se, but it's tough because, like, honestly, it was higher than this, but I've had that before where Rise Skywalker, I always look back at the review and I should have failed that fucking movie. I should have failed it. And there is times where we talk about this where I go, oh yeah, I do have more problems than I thought. But I think what this has done, that maybe it's still a 6 for me, but I think this has cemented as being my least favorite MCU movie, and I would put the bottom of the list. So that's kind of my like back and forth. And when we do Golden Geeks, like I said, because I'm gonna watch it one more time with Emily, I don't plan like me and Emily will not go see this in theaters. I will talk her out of it. I'll say we can watch this at home. There's some great visuals, there's some great cinematography, but it's just like if that's the case, I'd rather go wait for Matrix, which that was a hype trailer. I'd rather go see Dune again in the theaters. Like, if I want to go see some beautiful visuals, there's other movies out there. So this week, because after the extra live stream, I usually take the day off, and we might go see a movie. And yeah, I definitely don't want to sit through 2 hours. I'll sit through it one more time at home with her, but that's it. So I think that's my kind of compromise. And who knows? Maybe when we get to Golden Geeks, they'll be saying the same thing, that I should have failed it on that review. But I'll pass it a 6 out of 10. I think it's a good enough movie. There is some characters I like, some moments I like. Again, kind of what I said at the beginning, where there's greatness there, but they can't capture it. And but yeah, I think right now I can confidently say it is my least favorite MCU movie. And like I said, not going good for me this phase. I did not enjoy Black Widow's in the bottom 4. I did not enjoy Shang-Chi as much as other people. I really liked it, but still, everyone usually puts like a top 5, top 10. It's like in my mid tier. And then I got this, and now I got fucking Sony on the way. So you know what? And Ralph Boner. So thank God, at least for some of these Disney Plus shows. Like, again, maybe that's just the way the cookie crumbles. This is my least favorite MCU movie, but then you have Loki, which is like a top 5 MCU project for me, right? So it, at the end of the day, it can't all be perfect. But yeah, this was not a great movie, and I think MCU is. I'm not completely worried, but anything Eternals, I'm not that excited, and I do. I'm not worried yet, but it's at the state where I'm worried I'm gonna get worried. That's what I'll say. So, but we got other shows coming up. We got Spider-Man, we got Doctor Strange, Multiverse Man, we got Thor: Love and Thunder. So, I'm not giving them yet. Again, like I said before, we got a Thor: Dark World, and after Thor: Dark World, 4 years later, we got Infinity War and Endgame and Black Panther. So, does not
That's
mean
right.
anything. Just means that this is just a bummer that I did not like it even a little bit more. So, Kirkland, the floor is yours.
It's funny how you're bringing up Dune. I feel like if you saw Dune on the big screen and then you watch this on like a really small screen, you could be like, hey, they look pretty similar CGI wise.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. You go, oh
um,
yeah, look at that.
yeah. So I normally when I'm like leaving a theater, I'm just like thinking about my rating, like, bouncing between this number, this number. I did not even think about that because I was just
He
too
was
busy.
too
Like,
mad.
what were these sex scenes thrown in there? What was this decision of the movie? What, like, so many moments. I'm like, I feel like there's just people standing in front of a green screen on so much of this movie. Um, yeah, I wasn't expecting to hate on this movie as much as I was, but I wasn't lying when there was like 2 or 3 moments when I had to like check my watch on like, God, like we are still so early in this movie.
Yeah,
um let's just start with some positives to boost up. Maybe this will change my score a bit because I love the Celestials. I love the look of them. That little montage of just seeing them across space, super like galactic scale.
mhm.
Really, really cool. That moment when the judge like showed up, because it's just like Cersei and uh Dane, is that his name? Dane Whitman.
Dane Whitman. Yep.
They're just like, oh yeah, we survived this adventure. We're all happy, and then it just like goes fucking cloudy, and then you just
It's like
see
the
like
ending
the
of the first
eyes of
Mortal
the judge.
Kombat.
Yeah, exactly.
Your
Like
soul
actually
will
that
be mine.
one.
I don't think so.
So like all that stuff, it was really, really cool. And I do agree with you. I think there was a lot of greatness like hinted at, but the execution, I just can't give it to them because they were just trying to do too much in this movie. I will
Yeah,
forever stand by my thought of this should have been an origin movie, possibly even just placed like, I don't know, like I guess it would have had to been in phase 4, but just very much separate of the other MCUs. It's weird seeing Shang-Chi and then going into this one and just expecting it to be like running on the same lines. Like, okay, this is gonna be like what Shang-Chi did with the end credit scene of just lead us into the next thing. I didn't get that. So like I honestly felt like I kind of wasted some of my time watching this. Um and yeah, so I am gonna give this one a 3 out of 10. I really,
oh,
yeah, this is I'm failing it. This is I think my first
I knew
ever
you were
fail.
failing it. I didn't know you were dropping to 3.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
that's
because
tough.
there's just not enough saving grace, and I just didn't really vibe with the characters that much. Kingo's like 2 lines that really work for me isn't
That's
enough to
point
boost it
one
that
and
much higher.
two.
Yeah, and like the celestial stuff is cool, but I know that I don't ever have to watch this again to get more celestial stuff because I am going to
No,
see them down the line. Like they're
it's
just too big
coming.
of a. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
when Thanos is like hinted at, and then we just never get them. Like I just don't think there's a universe where we where that's the situation. I think we're gonna
Yeah.
see them again, but fuck, there is some bad stuff in this movie. Just thinking of Icarus, just. Oh, the story of Icarus flying too close to the sun? Well, it's happening on screen for us. Like, holy shit, man. like laughing out
It's
loud in a bad
amazing.
way because there's just some weird cringe
Yeah.
moments or just really bad CGI stuff. So yeah, no, I really didn't like this movie, and I'm hopefully I can stay optimistic moving forward. But God, the next
You
project I see is hopefully isn't like this.
Well, luckily, we're probably about to get Toby, Andrew, and Tom in a movie together, right? And that's gonna be a good time. Like that's hard to screw that up. So I think that'll
Yeah.
be a nice kind of get the taste out of your mouth and then fall in love back with the MCU and
Oh,
Spider-Man and stuff like
absolutely.
that. So
And like Frank in the chat brought up kind of what we were talking about, just
yep.
if this was a Disney Plus series. I was thinking about that while I was watching it, but I kept thinking like, no, this I feel like this concept of the Eternals and the Celestials is too big of a thing to just leave to a Disney Plus
Yeah.
series in case someone just doesn't see that, and then you go to see a
But
movie and you're like, who are all these people?
it
But
depends what
then it
happens
didn't
with the actual
happen at the
I was gonna say it depends with the multiverse of madness and everything like that, but like the Loki finale introducing Kang is a big thing, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely. But Loki was introduced in the movies
yeah,
prior. So
true.
I
Yeah.
kept telling myself, well, like you got to introduce them on the big screen and then maybe lean into a series. After this movie ended, I don't think you have to have that because it just didn't lead into the MC. Like I was expecting, like I don't know, fucking Bruce to appear or something in the end credit scene. That's just one I pulled from Sung Chi. But like a character that I know
Mhm.
shown. I'm not saying you have to do that. I just think the way that they went with it just didn't get me excited to the extent that I normally am when I leave an MCU movie. Like when I'm seeing an MCU movie for the first time and I get that end credit scene, first time
Yeah.
viewing on like opening night, I'm like, holy shit, I cannot wait for more. Did not have that effect, and for that reason, I gotta give it a fail, and not even like a nice fail. Like, hey,
No.
see me after class. We'll talk about it, and I'll give you a passing grade. No, this is like you gotta go redo the course.
Oh yeah. It's the three finger plug, so
The three finger play. That's what
well
Cersei was getting in the sand by Icarus. Ayo.
yeah, there you go. His rise. But well, there you go. If anyone thinks that we're super always just positive MCU films and whatnot, and at one point in my life I was called a Marvel dick sucker. Well, I feel like this is definitely one of my most negative MCU reviews, and I didn't fail, but Kirkland Patzer sure did, and that's a
It's talking about
rarity
like
on
one of the
the
lowest ratings I've ever given on the podcast, honestly.
that's
There's
definitely a
maybe
lowest rating for
Slenderman's
MCU movie
maybe
too, I think.
Slenderman's lower than that, but yeah, no, definitely MCU.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Like, and that for anybody MC, I think you got the lowest. I don't think anyone's ever got down past a
I think
5 or something.
I
So,
think I even passed Thor Dark World, honestly. I wasn't on like those retros or anything like that, but just in my personal list,
but
I
you
think I
would, yeah,
still gave it a passing score. It's
yeah.
just tough to get through, but no, I did not like this at all.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, the YouTube comments down below, our Discord, or if you just want to tweet us, let us know what you thought about this film, whether you liked it, you disliked it, whether you agree with us, whether you don't disagree. Maybe there's someone we brought up and go, hey, I got an argument against that, or I have a point maybe you missed. Absolutely, because we've only seen it once, and we may only, well, Kirkland's going to probably just see it once forever, and I'm going to see it at least one more time. But then, yeah, so we'll see if there's any more Eternal stuff down the line. If not, we hope you enjoyed this review. The next one is for Marvel, going to be Spider-Man, and that's going to be tons of fun. So I promise you, when you hear from us next, it'll not be boring.
See you later.